Most places haunted by ghosts have stories you can trace. Old crimes, tragic deaths, lost souls that never moved on. But some places feel different. The air is heavier, the silence stretches longer. People leave and won't say why. Animals won't go near. These are more than ghost stories. These are places that seem marked by something older, stranger, and far harder to explain. From forests that twist time to houses that scream at night, the world is full of locations where something is deeply, terribly wrong, and no one knows why. What links these places? Why do so many people report the same terrifying things? Are these just shared fears, or signs of something real? One of the clearest and most chilling cases is that of the forest where time disappears. Pine Barrens, New Jersey, USA. The New Jersey Pine Barrens, a vast and enigmatic expanse of dense forests, sandy soil and winding waterways, covers over 1 million acres of southern New Jersey. This unique ecosystem, often referred to simply as the Pines by locals, has long been a wellspring of folklore, legends and chilling tales, creating an enduring reputation as one of the most haunted regions in the United States. The isolation of the Barrens, coupled with its often desolate and eerie landscape, has fostered an environment where the veil between the known and the unknown seems particularly thin, giving rise to countless accounts of unexplained phenomena, spectral encounters, and legendary creatures. At the heart of the Pine Barrens' haunted reputation lies the ubiquitous legend of the Jersey Devil, also known as the Leeds Devil. This cryptid is arguably the most famous and enduring entity associated with the region. The most widely accepted origin story traces back to 1735 in Leeds Point, where a woman identified as Mother Leeds was said to have already borne 12 children, and, in a fit of frustration and despair over her impending 13th pregnancy, cursed the unborn child, exclaiming, "Let it be the devil." The legend states that, on a stormy night the child was born, appearing at first to be a normal infant but quickly transforming into a monstrous creature with a horse-like head, bat-like wings, cloven hooves and a forked tail. It reportedly growled and screamed, lashed out with its tail and then flew up the chimney and vanished into the darkness of the pines. Over the centuries, descriptions of the Jersey Devil have varied, sometimes depicting it as a kangaroo-like creature, a large bird or even a pterodactyl. Despite these variations, the core elements of a winged, hoofed and terrifying beast persist. The most notable period for Jersey Devil sightings occurred in 1909, a week that became known as the Phenomenal Week. During this time, hundreds of alleged sightings and discoveries of strange hoofprints were reported across southern New Jersey, including in towns far from the Pine Barrens itself, such as Camden and Haddon Heights. Police officers, government officials and businessmen whose integrity was considered beyond question, claimed to have witnessed the creature's activities. These widespread reports fueled a mass hysteria that captivated the nation, with newspapers printing sensational stories and offering rewards for the creature's capture, dead or alive. Even after this intense period, sporadic sightings and strange occurrences continue to be reported by travellers and residents alike, solidifying the Jersey Devil's place as a persistent and terrifying presence in the folklore of the Pine Barrens. Some theories suggest that the legend of Mother Leeds and a monstrous child may have originated as a smear campaign against the prominent Leeds family in colonial times, or that the widespread sightings in 1909 were a tactic by real estate speculators to create panic and encourage land sales. Regardless of its true origins, the belief in the Jersey Devil remains remarkably strong among many in the region. Beyond the infamous Jersey Devil, the Pine Barrens is rife with other spectral residents and unexplained phenomena. The vastness of the region, dotted with abandoned towns and decaying industrial ruins, provides a chilling backdrop for these tales. Many of these ghost towns, remnants of once thriving communities built around industries like bog iron, forestry, charcoal, paper and glass that boomed and then faded, now stand silent, their dilapidated structures whispering secrets of the past. Places like Baciu Village, Harrisville, Martha Furnace and Ong's Hat are particularly noted for their lingering spirits and eerie atmospheres. Baciu Village, a well-preserved historic site, was once a bustling bog iron and glass-making centre. While it serves as a window into the past, some believe it also holds a connection to the paranormal. The ruins of Hampton Furnace, where an Iremaster's mansion stands, are said to be haunted by the ghost of Henry Ryder, who was tragically killed there during a robbery in 1916. Legend states his ghost still roams the property, forever caught between worlds. Ong's Hat, an abandoned mill town, is shrouded in a particularly bizarre conspiracy theory, suggesting it houses a portal to another dimension. While likely a modern fabrication, the unsettling nature of the tale adds to the area's mystique. The town's unusual name itself is attributed to a local legend of a man named Ong whose hat was stomped on by a spurned lover, leading him to angrily throw it into a tree where it reportedly remained for years. Today only a few dilapidated structures remain, and visitors often report an unearthly sensation of being watched. The Pine Barrens is also home to a collection of individual ghostly figures. The ghost of a small boy, a victim of a hit-and-run accident, is said to roam Burnt Mill Road, forever searching for his killer. There are accounts of a mysterious blonde woman, a phantom black dog, and even a benevolent white stag that is said to appear to travellers, warning them of danger and guiding them to safety, a legend tracing back to Quakers who were saved from drowning by its appearance in 1809. Another prominent spectral figure is the Black Doctor of the Pines, Dr. James Still. James Still was a real historical figure, an African-American man who, in the mid-19th century, overcame racial prejudices to become a self-taught medical practitioner specialising in herbal medicine, often learning from the local indigenous people. He became one of the wealthiest men in Burlington County. While he died of a stroke in 1882, legends arose that he was unjustly lynched for practicing medicine. His ghost is now said to linger in the Pine Barrens, holding a flickering lantern and guiding lost or injured wanderers to safety, providing a sense of peace and protection, and even fixing their ailments. This legend highlights a darker side of the Pine Barrens' history, hinting at past injustices and racial tensions. Pirate lore also intertwines with the haunting tales of the Pine Barrens. The ghost of Captain Kidd, the notorious 17th century pirate, is said to haunt the region. Despite being executed in London, local folklore suggests his headless spirit has been seen walking along the shores of Barnegat Bay, where some believe his numerous treasures are hidden. In some unsettling accounts, Captain Kidd's headless apparition is even seen in the company of the Jersey Devil. This intertwining of historical figures with legendary creatures further blurs the lines between fact and fiction within the Pine Barrens. The very landscape of the Pine Barrens contributes to its eerie atmosphere. Miles of sandy roads, dense pitch pine forests, and isolated swamps create a sense of profound solitude and disquiet. The rustling of the pines, the shadows cast by the dense canopy, and the stillness of remote areas all contribute to a feeling that something unseen lurks just beyond perception. Many visitors and locals report a pervasive sense of unease, a feeling of being watched or hearing unidentifiable sounds, from disembodied whispers to blood-curdling screams that locals attribute to the Jersey Devil. Even events like the crash of Mexican aviator Emilio Carranza's plane in 1928, marked by a memorial deep in Wharton State Forest, have added to the solemnity and quiet mystery of the Pines. While not explicitly a ghost story, the tragic nature of the event and the isolation of the crash site contribute to the pervasive sense of historical weight and unresolved energies within the region. Isla de las Muñecas, Mexico. The Isla de las Muñecas, or Island of the Dolls, is a small chinampa located within the intricate channels of Xochimilco, south of central Mexico City. Its unsettling fame derives from the multitude of dolls, in various states of disrepair and dismemberment, that hang from trees and adorn structures throughout the island. These dolls, ranging in style and colour, are steeped in local legends surrounding the island's reclusive former owner, Don Julian Santana Barrera, transforming the location into a popular destination for dark tourism. The history of the island's peculiar doll collection began in the mid-20th century. Don Julian Santana Barrera, a solitary figure who resided on the island, started to collect dolls and hang them around the small plot of land. The island gained a degree of notoriety as early as 1943 when Mexican director Emilio Fernandez utilized it as a filming location for his renowned film Maria Candelaria, though the dolls were not yet a prominent feature at that time. The chilling origin story of the dolls is central to the island's mystique. The most widely circulated legend claims that Don Julian either discovered the lifeless body of a young girl floating in the canals or witnessed her drowning and was unable to save her. The very next day after this tragic event, Barrera reportedly found a doll drifting along the canal. Believing it belonged to the deceased girl, he hung the doll from a tree as a memorial to her spirit and as a talisman to ward off malevolent spirits. Some variations of the legend suggest he found a second doll in the canal the following day. It is widely speculated that after the girl's death, her spirit began to haunt the island. To appease her perceived presence, Barrera intensified his efforts, scouring trash heaps and trading produce from his garden in exchange for more dolls, which he continued to hang throughout the island. This desperate act of collecting and displaying dolls became his life's obsession, a constant offering to a restless spirit. It is important to note, however, that despite the widespread belief in this origin story, there has been no reported evidence of the girl's actual existence or her drowning, making the legend a potent yet unverified foundation for the island's haunting atmosphere. Don Julian Santana Barrera lived a solitary life on the island for approximately 50 years, surrounded by his macabre collection. His tragic fate in 2001 only deepened the island's eerie narrative. His nephew arrived on the island to assist him. As they were fishing in the canal, Don Julian, then 80 years old, began singing passionately, claiming that he heard mermaids in the water calling for him. The nephew left his uncle briefly, and upon his return he discovered Don Julian's lifeless body, face down in the very same canal where the young girl was said to have drowned decades earlier. This coincidental, or perhaps fateful death in the same spot where the original tragedy supposedly occurred, solidified the belief among many that the island held a powerful, dark energy. Following Don Julian's death in 2001, his family made the decision to open the island to the public as a tourist attraction. In addition to the hundreds, if not thousands of dolls, the island features 3 small huts and a modest museum. This museum houses articles from local newspapers that chronicle both the island's history and the life of its previous owner. Within the single-room hut where Barrera slept, visitors can see the very first doll he collected, as well as Agostina, which was reportedly his favourite doll. Access to the island of the dolls is typically achieved via gondola-like boats known as trajineras, which navigate the extensive canal system of Xochimilco. While most rowers are willing to transport tourists to the island, some reportedly refuse due to deep-seated superstitions surrounding the place. The journey to the island often includes a broader tour of the ecological area, the Ajolota Museum, the Apatlaco Canal, Texuelo Lagoon, and Lorona Island, adding to the cultural and environmental experience of the region. Since the island was open to the public, there have been numerous reports from visitors detailing unsettling paranormal experiences. Many claim to have witnessed the dolls moving their heads, arms, and even opening their eyes. Others report hearing the dolls whispering to each other, creating a pervasive sense of unease and observation. The general feeling reported by those who visit is one of profound sadness and an overwhelming sense of dread. These anecdotal accounts contribute significantly to the island's reputation as a genuinely haunted location, despite the dolls being inanimate objects. Visitors frequently leave offerings around the dolls, ranging from trinkets and coins to small toys, often in exchange for perceived miracles or blessings. Some go as far as to change the doll's clothes and actively help maintain the island, treating it as a form of worship or a site of spiritual significance, believing that by caring for the dolls, they are respecting the spirits that inhabit the island. The island of the dolls has attracted significant media attention, particularly from paranormal investigation shows and documentaries. It has been featured on the Travel Channel's Ghost Adventures, where the host conducted an investigation into the reported phenomena. The Amazon Prime show Lore also dedicated an episode to the island, exploring its folklore and chilling atmosphere. BuzzFeed Unsolved featured the island, with host Shane Madej, a self-proclaimed skeptic, humorously asserting that he believed the legends after his visit. The island also served as a filming location for the Spanish TV comedy Nosotros los Guapos for Televisa in the episode Estas son las Mananitas. In 2020, researchers Phil Torres and Jessica Chobot from Expedition X investigated the site with paranormal investigator Jason Hawes of Ghost Hunters. The premiere episode of Taurid's The Unbelievable with Dan Aykroyd on the History Channel US, aired on December 1st, 2023, also featured the island. The 8th case of the 7th installment of the Facebook video game Criminal Case, subtitled Supernatural Investigations, uses the island as its primary setting. Even YouTubers Sam and Colby visited the island, attempting to use Agostina, the protective doll, to shield them from evil spirits and conducting a ritual where they believed La Llorona, a figure of Mexican folklore, joined them alongside Don Julian. These widespread media portrayals have cemented the Isla de las Muñecas as a globally recognised hotspot for paranormal activity and a truly unique, unsettling destination. Blackville Ghost Road, New Brunswick, Canada. Blackville, a village in New Brunswick, Canada, holds a prominent place in Canadian folklore due to the enduring legend of the Dungarvan Whooper. This tale is deeply woven into the history of the region's early logging camps and has been passed down through generations, often recounted around campfires. The Ghost Road associated with Blackville typically refers to the areas around the Dungarvan River and the dense woods that once housed these remote lumbering operations, where the alleged paranormal activity is said to occur. The core of the Dungarvan Whooper legend centres on a young Irish cook named Ryan, who arrived in the early 19th century to work in a logging camp situated along the Dungarvan River. Stories often describe Ryan as a hard-working, handsome lad, known for his exceptionally loud whoop or holler, which was a valuable skill for communicating across the vast, noisy logging sites. He carried a money belt rumoured to be filled with his life savings, a fact he made apparent to his fellow loggers, though the source of his wealth remained a mystery. One frigid winter morning, after Ryan had prepared breakfast and let out one of his characteristic whoops to wake the woodsman, he was left alone at the camp while the others went off to log. Later that day, the camp boss returned and, noticing Ryan's money belt, allegedly murdered him to steal his savings. When the other woodsmen returned from their long day, they found the boss standing over Ryan's lifeless body. The money belt was gone. The boss claimed Ryan had suddenly fallen ill and died before he could help. Fearing reprisal, or perhaps believing the boss's fabricated story, the loggers quietly carried Ryan's body into the woods for a hasty burial in a shallow grave. As the woodsmen returned to camp, a severe storm struck, bringing with it heavy rain. That night, as the storm raged and its eye hovered over the camp, a dreadful, unearthly whooping sound began to echo through the forest. It was described as a blood-curdling scream, a terrifying wail that deafened the men's ears and persisted until sunrise the next day. The terrified loggers, convinced that Ryan's spirit was crying out from beyond the grave, packed up their camp and fled the area, never to return. The whooping sound, attributed to Ryan's tormented soul, was said to continue for many years in the Dungarvan woods. Local lore suggests that the sound could be heard by anyone venturing deep into the forest near the Dungarvan River, particularly at dusk. Some accounts even mention the smell of frying bacon wafting through the woods, believed to be Ryan's spirit attempting to lure his murderer back to the site of his death. Over time, variations of the Dungarvan Whooper legend emerged. One version claims that railwaymen also heard the mighty wails, attributing them to a phantom locomotive that was lost during the Great Miramichi Fire of 1825. This train crew, despite the raging flames, reportedly persisted in riding the train through the fire, and they were never found. The screaming sound of the steam engine is said to still ring through the forest, incorporating the nightly passenger train into the Whooper legend. However, the most widely accepted and frequently told version remains that of Ryan, the young Irish cook. The persistence of the whooping sound led some to believe that a spiritual intervention was necessary. A Roman Catholic priest from Renew, Father Murdoch, sometimes spelled Murdoch, reportedly attempted to quiet the restless spirit by blessing the land where Ryan was said to have met his fate, specifically at a location known as Whooper Spring. Despite his efforts, the holy words apparently had no lasting effect on the tortured soul, and the wailing continued to be reported by those who ventured into the area. Eyewitness accounts of the Dungarvan Whooper are primarily anecdotal, passed down through oral tradition. Many people from Blackville and the surrounding areas have grown up hearing the story, often told to scare them or to warn them away from venturing too deep into the dense, potentially dangerous forests. While some might easily dismiss the wailing sounds as those of timber wolves, coyotes, or other animals native to the Dungarvan woods, the deep-seated belief in something else lurking out there ensures the legend's continued life. Epping Forest, England. Epping Forest, a vast ancient woodland spanning parts of northeast London and Essex, holds a significant place in the historical and folkloric landscape of England. Its dense canopy, sprawling undergrowth, and isolated tracks have for centuries fostered an atmosphere ripe for tales of the supernatural and unexplained, deeply intertwined with its darker past. The very nature of the forest, with its ancient trees and deep shadows, lends itself to a sense of mystery and the unknown, an environment where the veil between worlds is often perceived as thin. The forest's history is rich with human activity, dating back to prehistoric times, and this long interaction has left an indelible mark on its perceived spiritual landscape. From the earliest settlers to Roman soldiers, from medieval hunters to Victorian pleasure seekers, countless lives have traversed its paths, and with them, countless stories, some of them tragic. It is this accumulation of human experience, particularly those moments of intense emotion, violence, or loss, that is often cited as the source of lingering spiritual energy and folklore. Epping Forest has a long association with crime. In the 18th century, it was notorious as a hideout for highwaymen such as Dick Turpin and Tom King, who preyed on wealthy travellers. These figures, operating in the shadows of the forest, became legendary, their daring escapades and eventual demise adding to the lore of the area. The stories of their ambushes and the fear they instilled would have certainly contributed to a sense of unease and foreboding within the forest. Jack Rann, 16-string Jack, even had a pub named after him in Thaden Bois, a testament to the lasting impact these outlaws had on the local consciousness. The dense tree cover and proximity to London have also made it a grim burial site for murder victims, a stark reality that further solidifies its reputation as a place where dark deeds have transpired. Triple policeman murderer Harry Roberts briefly hid in the forest before his 1966 arrest, highlighting its historical role as a refuge for criminals attempting to evade justice. Specific murder cases further underscore the forest's grim association. In 1966, Marion Hartley, a 15-year-old schoolgirl, was sexually assaulted and strangled in the Chingford area of the forest by Joseph Kiley, 20, after a school dance. The discovery of her body in such a desolate and public yet isolated place would have sent shockwaves through the community, and such a tragic end for a young life often fuels local narratives of unrested spirits. 4 years later, in 1970, the bodies of Susan Blatchford, 11, and Gary Hanlon, 12, missing from Enfield, North London, were found in a copse on Lippets Hill. This became known as the Babes in the Wood murders, a name that evokes a sense of vulnerability and innocence tragically lost within the vastness of the woodland. 30 years later, Ronald Jebson, already serving a life sentence for the 1974 murder of 8-year-old Rosemary Papper, confessed to these killings, bringing a chilling conclusion to a long unsolved case, but perhaps not to the enduring sense of sorrow associated with the location. The forest has also yielded unidentified victims, adding to its unsettling reputation. In 1981, the decomposed 6-foot-tall body of an unidentified white European man, aged 30-40, was found. He wore a £40 watch and a money belt containing English and Spanish currency. The body remains unidentified, a silent testament to an unknown tragedy, contributing to the idea that the forest holds secrets and unspoken histories. In 2003, the body of a person, estimated to be 40 years or older and believed to have been there for up to 20 years, was found. Experts could not determine the gender due to decomposition. This body also remains unidentified, deepening the mystery surrounding the forest's hidden grim past and the unknown individuals whose lives ended within its confines. Further acts of violence have marred the forest's history. In 1989, accountant Terence Gooderham and his girlfriend Maxine Arnold were killed by a double-barreled shotgun in a hitman-style slaying. Though unsolved, press reports suggest James Moody, a notorious hitman, may have been responsible. Gooderham was suspected of diverting £250,000 in drug money, leading to speculation that the Addams family criminal organisation Clerkenwell Crime Syndicate ordered the hit. The brutality and professional nature of such a crime would undoubtedly leave a lingering impression on the area. The following year, in 1990, Patricia Parsons, who ran a massage parlour, was found dead in her car, shot in the head with a crossbow. It was suggested she had a black book of clients and was a victim of a contract killing to prevent her from selling details to a newspaper. The murder remains unsolved, adding another layer of unresolved dark history to the forest's narrative. The new millennium unfortunately brought further horrors to Epping Forest. In 2000, Wendy Woodhouse, 31, was taken to the forest, stripped, tortured, and beaten to death with a snooker cue by Courtney Peters, 28, an illegal immigrant from Jamaica, and Ewing Thomas, 25, from Stoke Newington, North London. They were jailed for life at the Old Bailey for her murder, believing she had cheated them in a drug deal. The sheer brutality of this act, the deliberate torture, and the tragic end in such a secluded location would have contributed significantly to the forest's grim reputation. In 2004, the remains of Ivor Willis, missing for 2 years, were found on Wanstead Flats, indicating that the forest continued to conceal the tragic fates of missing persons. The year 2005 saw 2 more disturbing discoveries. Shah Afruti Ali, 40, was lured to the forest, stabbed, and his body burned by his younger lover Joygun Nessa, 27, and her brother Azor Khan, 18. This act of betrayal and gruesome disposal would have instilled a profound sense of horror in the local consciousness. Later that same year, Rafal Chapchik was found with ballistic wounds to his head at Wake Arms after passers-by heard gunshots. He died later in the hospital. The body remained unidentified for several months until his family in Poland recognised mortuary pictures released by police. His killers have not been found, leaving another unanswered question and a lingering sense of unease in the area. Most recently, in 2015, Scotland Yard launched a murder inquiry after the body of Hidirak Sakal was discovered near Hollow Ponds, Leytonstone on September 9, 2015, a reminder that the forest's association with violence continues into contemporary times. Beyond these documented crimes, the sheer antiquity of Epping Forest means that countless unrecorded events, both ordinary and extraordinary, have taken place within its boundaries. Its role as a hunting ground, a strategic location during various historical conflicts, and a place where people lived, worked, and died for millennia contributes to a deep historical resonance. The forest is not merely a collection of trees, it is a repository of memories, both human and natural, some of which are believed to manifest as residual energy or spectral apparitions. The folklore of the forest is replete with tales of unexplained noises, shadowy figures, and a pervasive sense of being watched, often attributed to the spirits of those whose lives met a tragic end within its depths. Some accounts describe sightings of a spectral coach and horses, reminiscent of the highwaymen who once roamed its paths, or the shadowy figure of a man seen disappearing into the trees, potentially an echo of one of the many victims or perpetrators of its past crimes. The thick fog that often settles over parts of the forest, coupled with the rustling of leaves and the creaking of ancient branches, can easily conjure an unsettling atmosphere, making it easy for the mind to interpret natural phenomena as something more sinister or supernatural. The isolation of certain parts of the forest, particularly after dark, can amplify these feelings, making every sound and shadow a potential harbinger of something otherworldly. The local community has long shared stories of paranormal occurrences in Epping Forest, passed down through generations. These narratives often speak of specific areas that are particularly active, such as the vicinity of Ambrosbury Banks, an Iron Age hill fort within the forest, where ancient energies are said to linger. Other locations, often near specific landmarks or particularly dense groves, are reported to be sites of unexplained phenomena, with visitors claiming to experience sudden drops in temperature, disembodied voices, or the unsettling feeling of being followed. These personal testimonies, while not scientific proof, contribute significantly to the forest's reputation as a haunted place, feeding into the collective imagination and reinforcing the belief that the past, particularly its more violent aspects, remains etched into the very fabric of the environment. Aokigahara Forest, Japan. Aokigahara, often called the Sea of Trees, is deeply woven into Japanese folklore as a place where spirits linger. This dense forest, located near Mount Fuji, has a long-standing reputation as a dwelling place for yurei, which are the ghosts of the dead in Japanese mythology. This connection to death and spirits isn't new. It goes back further than the forest's more recent and widely known association with suicide. The belief that Aokigahara is haunted stems from various historical practices and events. One significant historical practice linked to the forest's haunted reputation is ubersuit. This was a grim practice where elderly or infirm family members were abandoned in remote locations, like Aokigahara, to die. If this practice indeed occurred in the forest, then the spirits of those left to perish would be believed to remain there as Dola Yastlaho Baru, Ray Dola, forever tied to the place of their lonely death. These abandoned souls, cut off from their families and left to die in the wilderness, would be seen as particularly restless and sorrowful spirits, prone to haunting the very paths and clearings where their lives ended. The profound isolation of the forest, with its sound-absorbing density, would only amplify the feeling of their lingering presence, making it a fitting environment for these spectral beings. Beyond the specific practice of ubasut, the general concept of death occurring within Aokigahara has long fueled its haunted reputation. For centuries, people have died in the forest, whether from natural causes, accidents, or, more recently, suicide. In Japanese culture, a sudden or violent death, or death without proper burial rites, can lead to the deceased becoming a Dola Yasklash Baru Reyasi Dola. The sheer number of deaths that have occurred within Aokigahara over a vast span of time means that, by traditional Japanese spiritual beliefs, the forest would be teeming with such spirits. These Dola Yasklash Baru Rei Dola are not necessarily malicious, but rather are often depicted as mournful and attached to the place of their demise, perhaps seeking solace or an end to their earthly ties. The forest's unique physical characteristics also contribute to its eerie atmosphere, which many interpret as a sign of its haunted nature. The extreme density of the trees and the porous volcanic rock of its floor absorbs sound, creating a profound sense of solitude. This deep quiet, a silence that can feel oppressive, is often described by visitors. In the context of a place associated with death and spirits, this silence can be interpreted as the quiet of a place where the veil between worlds is thin, where the living are hushed in the presence of the dead. Some visitors report feeling an inexplicable sense of unease or being watched, which they attribute to the forest's pervasive reputation and the spirits believed to dwell within it. The very landscape of Aokigahara, with its tangled roots, moss-covered ground, and limited sunlight penetrating the thick canopy, creates an environment that aligns with common imagery of haunted places in folklore. The disorienting nature of the forest, where paths can be obscured and the sense of direction lost, feeds into the idea of being trapped or led astray by unseen forces. There are numerous anecdotal accounts from those who have ventured deep into Aokigahara, reporting strange sounds like whispers, faint cries, or the feeling of cold spots, all classic signs attributed to paranormal activity. While these experiences could be explained by natural phenomena or psychological factors, they are consistently interpreted through the lens of the forest's ghostly inhabitants. The tragic association of Aokigahara with suicide in more recent times has only deepened its reputation as a haunted place. In Japanese spiritual beliefs, individuals who die by suicide may also become Dola Baru Rei Dola, especially if their death is a result of deep despair or unresolved suffering. The large number of suicides that have occurred in Aokigahara has led many to believe that the forest is now heavily populated by these tormented spirits. These specific Dola Yasklash Baru Rei Dola are often imagined as particularly sad or disturbed, adding another layer to the forest's unsettling aura. The idea is that their lingering anguish contributes to the overall heavy and somber atmosphere reported by many who enter the forest. The fact that search parties regularly find human remains within the forest further reinforces the notion of its haunting. The discovery of personal items, discarded camping gear, and even bodies deep within the dense woods serves as a tangible reminder of the many lives that have ended there. Each discovery adds to the collective narrative of the forest as a place of death, and by extension, a place where the spirits of the dead reside. The sheer scale of these discoveries, with hundreds of bodies found over the years, suggests an enduring connection between the forest and those who have passed away within its boundaries. Moreover, the phenomenon of magnetic compasses sometimes behaving erratically when placed directly on the volcanic rock, while scientifically explained by the rock's natural magnetism, is often misinterpreted in popular accounts as evidence of supernatural interference. This misunderstanding feeds into the narrative of a place where natural laws are somehow distorted, where something otherworldly is at play. Even though a compass held at normal height generally works correctly, the initial observation of a needle pointing away from north can create a powerful impression of an unnatural force at work, contributing to the idea of the forest being under some kind of spiritual influence. Daring Woods, England. The Daring Woods, also called the Screaming Woods, are in Kent, England, between Smarden and Pluckley. This old forest, about 126 hectares in size, is thought to be one of the most haunted woods in Britain. People often report hearing terrifying screams at night and disembodied footsteps and whispers when there is thick fog. Many local people believe the woods are haunted by the spirits of those who died or got lost there. The Daring Woods have a long and sometimes dark history. The forest is mentioned in the Domesday Book from the year 1086. In the Middle Ages, the forest was important for wood, used to build local buildings and make charcoal. In the 1800s, some sad events added to the wood's haunted reputation. One story tells of a highwayman who was caught by angry locals, pinned to a tree, and then had his head cut off. Since then, many believe his spirit still wanders the forest, sometimes seen at night. Another local story is about an army colonel from the 1800s who died by suicide and whose ghost is often seen among the trees. People from nearby villages also say they have seen black shadows that follow them in the forest, only to disappear when looked at. A very disturbing event happened on Halloween night, October 31, 1948. On the morning of November 1, 1948, a shocking discovery was made. 20 people from the nearby Maltmans Hill area were found dead in the forest. 11 of these people were children. Their bodies were piled up, but they had no visible injuries. Many people who saw it said they saw strange, unexplained lights coming from the forest on the night the deaths happened. Autopsies could not find a clear reason for their deaths. After only a few weeks, local police quickly closed the investigation, saying the deaths were caused by carbon monoxide poisoning. This quick ending and the unusual official explanation made people question what happened, and it still leads to theories of a possible police cover-up or something more sinister. This event, with its exact date and number of victims, is a main part of the forest's dark legend. The mystery of the 1948 incident led to private investigations. In 1964, private investigator Robert Collins began interviewing witnesses to find clues about a possible unknown religious cult in the village of Smarden, which is next to the forest. However, his research ended when he died in a car accident the next year, adding another unexplained event to the Daring Woods story. Another confusing mystery happened in the woods on October 31, 1998, exactly 50 years after the 1948 deaths. On this night, 4 college students visiting the forest disappeared. People from Pluckley, the village next door, said they saw figures of light similar to spiderwebs in the sky that same evening. The bodies of the students were never found. After 3 weeks, the police investigation was stopped again, making their disappearance an official cold case and adding to the pattern of unexplained events in the Daring Woods on Halloween night. Besides these sad events, the Daring Woods are important historically because they contain one of the oldest Stone Age sites in the world. This very old history adds to the belief that the woods have powerful and possibly otherworldly energies. Scientists and people who study psychic phenomena have looked into what has been reported in Daring Woods. British physicist B. Josephson, during his research at Cavendish Laboratory for the Mind-Matter Unification Project, has studied similar things for many years. He wrote about some of his findings in a scientific paper called Quantitative Measurement of Decoherence, a link between consciousness and group-theoretic characterization of hyperplanes of existence. In a recent interview, Josephson said that scientists often do not believe in research about psychic phenomena. He stated, "The trouble is that the scientific community is not aware of these results because very little of this work is published in journals like Nature and Science, and the work is often ridiculed when it is put in respectable physics journals." He gave an example of a paper on quantum mechanics by Henry Stapp of the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory that mentioned psychic phenomena, saying physicists have an emotional response when they hear anything connected with parapsychology. Their opinion of parapsychology research is not based on evaluation of the evidence, but on a dogmatic belief that all research in this field is false. While not directly about Daring Woods, Josephson's comments show the general difficulty of scientific study into things often called paranormal, which some visitors and researchers connect to the woods. The Daring Woods are close to Pluckley, known as the most haunted village in England, which makes the area even more mysterious. Pluckley got its Guinness Book of World Records title in 1989 because of how many paranormal things have been reported there over the years. This shared history of unexplained sightings and strange events makes both places more interesting to visitors and people who like paranormal things. Pluckley itself is thought to have been started more than 1,000 years ago, and its long history includes many fights, sad events, and unexplained occurrences that have led to many reports of hauntings. Several specific haunted places and ghosts are connected to Pluckley, adding to the local stories that blend into the Daring Woods. 1. The Lady of Red. This is a well-known ghost in the village, said to walk through the church cemetery of St. Nicholas holding a red rose. Local people believe this woman was buried with a valuable ruby ring and her soul is stuck in the cemetery. Travellers and visitors say they have seen her ghost among the graves, as well as strange lights floating there at night. 2. The Choroso Molero, the Crying Miller. Near the ruins of an old mill, the ghost of a man has been seen many times. Residents report hearing groans and hiccups from the nearby mill, but no one is ever there. Some believe this is the spirit of a miller who died tragically while working there, and his soul is forever sad. 3. The Ghost Night. On the country road between Pluckley and Smarden, several drivers say they have seen the ghost of a medieval knight on a black horse. The ghost reportedly appears suddenly in the middle of the road and disappears seconds later, scaring drivers. People describe the knight wearing old armour and a long cape, suggesting he was a warrior from the Middle Ages. 4. The Spectral Man of the Brick Factory. In Pluckley's old brick factory, a worker is said to have been buried alive by a clay wall. Since then, residents and tourists claim to hear screams echoing inside the factory's ruins, especially at night. Some people report seeing a dark, faceless figure walking around the broken bricks, vanishing suddenly when someone gets close. 5. The Ghost Professor of the Old School. One of the most interesting reports is about Pluckley's old school, where a teacher from the 1800s was reportedly found dead inside a classroom. Some residents report that on certain nights, you can still hear footsteps and the voice of a man reciting lessons in the empty building. Many reports of paranormal activity support the Daring Woods' reputation as a haunted place. Visitors and local people often share experiences that cannot be explained. The night screams and whispers in the fog are some of the most common things people hear. Many believe these terrifying cries, especially at night, are the sounds of lost souls stuck between this world and the next, wandering through that forest. However, people who do not believe in ghosts often say these sounds are from night animals or the wind blowing through the trees, making it sound scary. Other ghost sightings are also reported. Besides the highwayman and the colonel, a female ghost dressed in white, known as the White Lady, is said to float through the forest, disappearing when approached. Also, several people say they have seen dark, shapeless shadows while walking in the forest, which also disappear when looked at directly. Sounds other than screams and whispers include reports of invisible footsteps, faint laughs, and an unsettling feeling of being watched or followed, even when alone. Electronic devices like cameras and voice recorders often stop working for no clear reason, and sudden, small changes in temperature are common things reported by those in the woods. The Daring Woods' reputation has brought both curious tourists and dedicated paranormal researchers. Visitors' stories, often shared online, describe deep and unsettling experiences. One shared story said, "After sunset, the atmosphere changed a lot. The air felt heavy and we felt uneasy. I heard whispers that seemed to come from everywhere, but no one was there. It's an experience I'll never forget." Paranormal investigation groups have done many studies in Daring Woods using equipment like audio recorders, night vision cameras, and EMF detectors. Many researchers say they have captured electronic voice phenomena, recording unexplained voices that seem to come from nowhere. Others report seeing glowing balls of light floating among the trees, which is often linked to the presence of spirits. Also, some teams claim to have found unusual changes in electromagnetic fields and sudden drops in temperature without any clear reason from the environment. These things, while not proving anything for sure, add a lot to the forest's mystery, encouraging new investigations and ideas about its possible paranormal activity. Even though there is no widely accepted scientific proof that ghosts exist in Daring Woods, the large number and consistent nature of the reports keep the mystery alive, making the forest even more known as one of England's most haunted places. Freetown Fall River State Forest, Massachusetts, USA. The Freetown Fall River State Forest, often shortened to Freetown State Forest, is a publicly owned expanse covering more than 5,000 acres, which is approximately 2,000 hectares, within the city of Fall River and the towns of Freetown and Lakeville in Massachusetts. Despite its recreational offerings, including 50 miles of unpaved roads and trails for hiking, horseback riding, and off-road vehicles, the Freetown Fall River State Forest has a history marked by both natural disasters and a litany of unsettling incidents, leading to its association with the infamous Bridgewater Triangle, a regional area noted for its high concentration of paranormal phenomena. The forest itself is considered by many researchers and locals to be the very heart of this enigmatic triangle. The land's dark reputation is not a recent invention, but is rooted in centuries of conflict, tragedy, and unexplained events. Before it was designated as a state forest, the area was the ancestral home of the Wampanoag people. The very ground is steeped in the history of King Philip's War, one of the bloodiest conflicts between colonists and Native Americans in the 17th century. From 1675 to 1678, the war raged across New England, and the lands that now constitute the forest, particularly the area around the Ossone River and the Pocasset Swamp, were the site of intense fighting and immense bloodshed. The Wampanoag leader, Metacomet, known to the English as King Philip, used the dense swamps and forests as a base for his warriors. Historical accounts describe brutal skirmishes, ambushes, and massacres occurring within these woods. This violent history is often cited by paranormal investigators and psychics as a primary source of the negative energy and residual hauntings that plague the forest to this day. A key landmark within the forest, Assonet Ledge, also known as Profile Rock, was a sacred site for the Wampanoag. The rock formation was said to resemble the face of the sachem Massasoit, Metacomet's father. However, in 1999, a significant portion of the rock face that formed this profile broke away and fell, an event that some local Native American leaders interpreted as a powerful and ominous sign. The forest's modern reputation for darkness was cemented in the late 20th century by a series of horrific crimes. On November 11, 1978, the body of Mary Lou Aruda, a 15-year-old cheerleader, was discovered tied to a tree deep within the state forest. She'd been abducted from the nearby town of Raynham on September 8, 1978, while riding her bicycle. The discovery of her remains after a 2-month search horrified the community and drew intense media attention to the woods. James M. Cater of Brockton, who had a prior conviction for a similar kidnapping in 1967, was charged with her abduction and murder. What followed was one of the most convoluted legal battles in Massachusetts history. Cater was first convicted of first-degree murder in 1979. However, this verdict was overturned by the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court due to issues involving hypnotically induced testimony from a witness. A second trial in 1986 resulted in another conviction, but this too was overturned on appeal. Cater's third trial, held in 1992, ended in a mistrial. It was not until his fourth and final trial, which began in 1996, that a conviction was secured and upheld. This final trial brought another sinister element of the forest law to the forefront. During the proceedings, Cater's defense team argued that the police had failed to investigate an alternative theory for Aruda's murder, that she was a victim of a satanic cult that was known to be active in the Freetown State Forest. This allegation was not baseless speculation. As early as 1980, during the investigation of another local murder, police officials were approached by several individuals who claimed they had personally witnessed satanic cult rituals taking place within the forest's secluded clearings. These reports painted a disturbing picture of animal sacrifices, dark incantations, and clandestine gatherings. The area became notorious as a supposed meeting ground for such groups, a reputation that persisted for decades. Law enforcement officers patrolling the forest during the 1980s and 1990s discovered evidence that seemed to corroborate these claims. They found makeshift bunkers dug into the hillsides, areas with charred remains of large bonfires, and numerous instances of animal mutilations. The carcasses of dogs, cats, and even larger animals like calves were found, often killed in a manner that suggested ritualistic sacrifice rather than natural predation. The defense in Cater's 1996 trial presented testimony suggesting that police had reports of a specific cult that used the forest, and that details of Aruda's death were consistent with their alleged practices. While the prosecution successfully argued that Cater was the perpetrator, the satanic cult angle became permanently fused with the forest's identity, adding a layer of intentional human evil to its already grim history. The stories fed into the nationwide satanic panic of the era, but in Freetown the discovery of physical evidence lent the tales a chilling credibility that they lacked in many other communities. One of the most notorious figures linked to these allegations was Carl Drew, a pimp and self-proclaimed Satanist from Fall River, who was convicted in 1981 for the ritualistic murder of a sex worker named Karen Marsden. While Marsden's murder did not take place in the forest, Drew's alleged cult was rumoured to use the woods for its ceremonies, creating a direct link in the public consciousness between the forest and organised violent occult activities. The murder of Mary Lou Aruda was not an isolated event. The Freetown Fall River State Forest has been the setting for other homicides. In 1987, the body of a homeless man was found in the woods. Investigators determined that he had been murdered, and it was rumoured that he was killed because he was mistaken for an undercover police officer investigating the criminal activities within the forest. On October 21, 2001, the bodies of two men, William P. Pyers Jr., aged 20, and Kevin J. O'Connell, aged 19, were discovered in a clearing just off Bell Rock Road, a paved but isolated road that serves as a main artery through the forest. Both men had been shot to death. The case went cold for years, further solidifying the forest's reputation as a place where violence could occur with impunity. In addition to these murders, other violent assaults have been officially reported. In 1991, a man from Fall River was attacked within the forest's boundaries. In 1998, a teenager from the nearby city of New Bedford was also the victim of a serious assault in the woods. These documented crimes are compounded by a host of other dangerous and bizarre incidents. In 1996, the forest was the site of a major hazardous waste dump, where toxic materials were illegally discarded, poisoning a section of the land. In 2006, authorities had to deal with reports of a pack of aggressive, abandoned dogs that were roaming the forest and menacing visitors. That same year, a more surreal incident occurred when an emu escaped from a local farm and was seen wandering through the trees for several weeks before it was captured. The forest terrain itself can be treacherous. In May 2015, a woman had to be rescued by emergency services after she slid 80 feet down the granite face of a sonnet ledge while spray painting graffiti, suffering a broken ankle in the process. More malicious acts have also been recorded. In January 2016, an illegally dumped boat was found abandoned in a remote area. More alarmingly, in May of 2016, police issued a public warning after discovering that thin wire cables had been deliberately stretched across recreational trails at neck height. The wires were clearly intended to injure or kill riders of off-road motorcycles and all-terrain vehicles, an act of malice that reinforced the sense of pervasive danger in the area. Beyond the realm of human crime and verifiable history lies the vast and complex mythology of the paranormal for which the Freetown State Forest is most famous. Its location within the 200-square-mile Bridgewater Triangle, a term coined by cryptozoologist Lauren Coleman in the 1970s, places it at the epicenter of one of America's most active paranormal hotspots. The phenomena reported within the forest are not of a single type. Rather, it is a place where numerous categories of the unexplained seem to converge. Reports of ghostly apparitions are exceedingly common. Hikers, hunters, and police officers have all recounted experiences with seeing spectral figures. One of the most persistent apparitions is that of a ghostly man in a flannel shirt, sometimes seen walking with a dog, who vanishes when approached. Others have reported seeing the tormented spirit of a young girl, often assumed to be Mary Lou Aruda, near the location where her body was found. Disembodied voices are another frequently reported phenomenon. Visitors tell of hearing faint whispers just behind them, phantom screams echoing from the depths of the woods, and the distinct sound of laughter when no one is around. Paranormal investigators conducting electronic voice phenomenon, or EVP, sessions have claimed to capture numerous recordings of voices, including some that have uttered coherent threats. One of the most intense locations for this activity is Assonet Ledge, the former granite quarry that has been the site of numerous suicides and accidents over the years. Visitors to the ledge often report a sudden, overwhelming sense of dread, sorrow, and despair. Many people have described feeling an unseen force pushing them towards the cliff's edge. The ledge is a magnet for thrill seekers and paranormal enthusiasts, many of whom have left with terrifying stories. They speak of seeing shadowy figures moving along the top of the quarry and even witnessing apparitions that appear to leap from the edge, only to disappear before hitting the ground. The area is also known for causing equipment malfunctions, as cameras and recording devices suddenly fail without explanation. The sense of being watched is a near universal feeling among those who venture into the forest's deeper sections, a palpable malevolent presence that seems to track one's every move. The paranormal activity extends into the realm of cryptozoology, with the forest being a reputed home for a variety of strange creatures. The most famous of these are the Pukwudgies, beings from the folklore of the Wampanoag people. According to legend, Pukwudgies are small, grey-skinned, troll-like humanoids, typically 2 to 3 feet tall. They were once friendly towards humans, but have since become malicious tricksters who delight in tormenting people. They are said to be able to appear and disappear at will, use magic, lure people to their deaths off cliffs or into swamps, and attack with small knives or by throwing sand in their victims' eyes. Astonishingly, modern-day visitors to the Freetown State Forest have reported encounters that match these folkloric descriptions perfectly. People have claimed to see small, bipedal creatures watching them from behind trees, only to vanish when noticed. Others have reported having stones and gravel thrown at them by an unseen assailant, an activity specifically attributed to Pukwudgies in the old legends. These encounters are often accompanied by a strange giggling or chattering sound. The forest is also a hotspot for Bigfoot sightings. Over the years, numerous witnesses have come forward with accounts of encountering a massive, bipedal, ape-like creature in the woods. A well-known report from October 1998 involved a man driving on Copycut Road, which runs along the southern edge of the forest, who claimed a 7-foot-tall, hairy creature covered in dark fur walked across the road in front of his car, glanced at him, and then disappeared into the trees. Other reports involve discoveries of unusually large, human-like footprints in muddy sections of the trails and terrifying guttural roars heard at night that do not match any known native animal. Researchers point to the vast, dense and swampy terrain of the greater Hockomock swamp ecosystem, of which the Freetown State Forest is a part, as ideal territory for such a creature to remain hidden. Adding to the menagerie of cryptids are reports of giant pterodactyl-like birds, often referred to as thunderbirds. Sightings of these enormous winged creatures, with wingspans estimated at 12 feet or more, have been part of the Bridgewater Triangle lore for decades. While less common than Bigfoot or Pukwudgie reports, several accounts have placed these creatures soaring over the forest canopy. UFO phenomena add yet another layer of high strangeness to the forest. The Bridgewater Triangle has a long history of UFO sightings, dating back to the colonial era, but a significant wave occurred in the 1960s and 1970s. The Freetown State Forest is a prime location for these encounters. The most common reports are of mysterious, unexplained lights, often described as silent, glowing orbs of varying colours, including white, red, and green. These phantom lights are seen hovering above the trees, moving silently and erratically through the woods, and sometimes following cars driving on the forest's isolated roads, like Bell Rock Road and Copycut Road. One of the most famous cases in the wider Triangle area occurred on March 17, 1968, in Rehoboth, when multiple witnesses, including a police officer, observed a bizarre, brilliantly lit object hovering over a field for an extended period. The proximity of the Freetown Forest to such well-documented sightings has led researchers to believe the forest may serve as a base or a frequent flyover zone for these unidentified aerial phenomena. Witnesses inside the forest described the lights performing maneuvers that defy conventional physics, such as making instantaneous 90-degree turns or accelerating to incredible speeds from a dead stop. These varied reports, ranging from the spirits of murder victims and Native American warriors to satanic cults, vicious cryptids, and extraterrestrial visitors, contribute to the unnerving sense that multiple types of anomalies are concentrated in this single densely forested location. The Freetown Fall River State Forest, therefore, stands as a nexus of natural beauty and profound, often terrifying mystery, a place where the veil between worlds feels thin and the weight of a dark history presses heavily on all who enter. Wychwood Forest, England. Wychwood Forest, located north of Witney in Oxfordshire, England, is a 501.7 hectare, approximately 240 acre, biological site of special scientific interest. It is also designated as a Nature Conservation Review Site Grade 1 and an area of 263.4 hectares, 651 acres. Within it is a National Nature Reserve. The site contains a long barrow dating back to the Neolithic period, which is a scheduled monument, signifying human activity in the area from at least 3000 BC. This barrow, known as the Whorestone, sits near the hamlet of Enston and consists of 3 large upright stones with a 4th lying flat, all that remains of a once much larger burial chamber. Archaeological investigations in the 19th century, including one conducted by the Reverend Charles Kerry in 1867, uncovered fragmented human bones, suggesting its long use as the repository for the dead. The name Wychwood is derived from the Old English term Hwychewudu, meaning wood of a tribe called the Hwycha. The Hwychi were an Anglo-Saxon people who inhabited the area from sometime in the 6th century, until their assimilation into broader Middle English society, their kingdom covering what would later become Gloucestershire and Worcestershire. This ancient lineage grounds the forest in a deep pre-Christian past, a time when folklore and belief in the supernatural were inextricably linked with the natural world. Evidence of continuous human presence extends through the ages, with remnants of the North Oxfordshire Grim's Ditch, a series of linear earthworks dating to the Iron Age, running along the forest's edge. This defensive or territorial boundary, excavated in sections by archaeologists like D.W. Harding in the late 1960s, speaks to an era of tribal conflict and territorial anxieties, layering the landscape with a history of human struggle long before the Norman conquest. Roman presence is also marked nearby, with the extensive remains of the North Leigh Roman Villa, just a few kilometres to the southeast, indicating that this woodland was a known and utilised resource for centuries, witnessing the rise and fall of empires. By the time of the Domesday Book in 1086, Wychwood was already established as a royal hunting forest, a status that would profoundly shape its character and contribute to the folklore of its haunting. The forest laws imposed by the Norman kings were exceptionally harsh. Poaching deer, a right reserved exclusively for the monarch and his chosen nobles, was punishable by blinding, castration or hanging. These brutal punishments were meted out frequently, creating a legacy of resentment and fear among the local populace who had previously relied on the forest for sustenance. Records from the 13th and 14th centuries detail numerous cases of villagers caught transgressing these laws, their subsequent fates serving as a grim warning. The spirits of these unfortunate souls, executed for the crime of trying to feed their families, are said to be among the many unseen residents of the forest, their sorrow and anger seeping into the very soil. The forest administration was overseen by a warden, a position of great power, and the woodland was dotted with lodges for royal hunting parties. One of the most significant of these was Cornbury Park, a hunting lodge, that would later be tragically linked to the forest's most famous ghost story. 3 villages in the vicinity incorporate Wychwood into their names: Milton under Wychwood, Shipton under Wychwood, and Ascot under Wychwood. These villages, collectively known as the Wychwoods, were historically part of the Royal Forest of Wychwood, their inhabitants living under the shadow of its strict laws and its deep, dark canopy for generations. This long history of royal authority and punitive justice created a landscape imbued with stories of tragedy and spectral retribution. Wychwood Forest's enigmatic ambience is deeply intertwined with the tragic story of Amy Robsart, the ill-fated wife of Robert Dudley, Earl of Leicester. Amy Robsart, born in 1532, married Dudley at the age of 18, a union historians believe was a love match. Dudley was a well-known favourite of Queen Elizabeth I, and Amy Robsart herself gained posthumous fame due to her mysterious and tragic death. In 1560, Amy suffered a fatal fall that broke her neck on September 8th of that year at Cumnor Place, a property they rented in Oxfordshire, also known as Cumnor Hall. Dudley was away at Windsor Castle with the Queen and did not receive news of his wife's death until the following day. On the morning of her death, she reportedly insisted on sending her servants away, including her companion Mrs. Oddingsells, to a local fair. She was not found until their return, discovered at the bottom of a flight of stairs with a broken neck and 2 head wounds, one of the depth of a quarter of a thumb and another of the depth of 2 thumbs. The circumstances surrounding her demise were highly suspicious, leading to widespread speculation of suicide or even murder. Rumours persisted that Amy Robsart's husband, Dudley, was a lover of the Queen and that Elizabeth would marry him if his wife were to die. These rumours were not new. The Spanish ambassador Álvaro de la Cuadra had reported to King Philip II in November 1559 that there was talk of Dudley poisoning his wife. Although they never did marry, these rumours plagued Dudley throughout his life, particularly fuelled by his political enemies. An inquest was immediately convened, headed by the coroner, and a jury of 15 local gentlemen was assembled. Dudley himself, in letters to his agent Thomas Blount, insisted on a thorough and impartial investigation, even urging that some of Amy's own relatives be present on the jury. On August 1, 1561, the jury delivered a verdict of misfortune, concluding that Amy had accidentally fallen down the stairs. However, the full inquest report was not made public for centuries, only being rediscovered in the archives in 2008, which allowed suspicion to fester and alternative narratives to take hold. One of the most damaging of these narratives came from a scurrilous propaganda piece published in 1584 titled Leicester's Commonwealth. This pamphlet accused Dudley of orchestrating Amy's murder, naming his man, Sir Richard Verney, as the killer who forced her to the top of the stairs and broke her neck. This account, though politically motivated and filled with inaccuracies, became widely accepted as fact and cemented the image of Dudley as a murderous villain. Today, the most widely discussed theory among academic historians, first proposed by the surgeon and historian Ian Aird in 1956, is that she had breast cancer. Aird argued that a cancerous growth could have spread to her spine, causing a pathological fracture of the cervical vertebrae from a minor fall or even a simple turn of the head. This theory accounts for contemporary reports that she was suffering from a malady in the breast and provides a medical explanation for the verdict of accidental death. However, it is the spectral encounter that her husband, the Earl of Leicester, reportedly had within the depths of Wychwood Forest that has truly cemented the forest's haunted reputation in local legend. The question arises, how did the lady who died in her own house some 13 kilometres away come to haunt these woods? Or was it rather her husband who was haunted within the woods? The connection is Cornbury Park, the royal lodge within Wychwood, which Queen Elizabeth had granted to Dudley in 1576. This became one of his primary residences, a place he used for hunting and leisure, directly linking him to the ancient forest. As the tale goes, years after Amy's untimely death, the Earl of Leicester found himself in Wychwood Forest on a fateful hunting trip. This was in late August 1588, 28 years after her death. By this time, he had married Lettice Knollys, not the Queen, and the Spanish Armada had just been defeated, a campaign in which Dudley had served as Lieutenant and Captain General of the Queen's armies and companies. He was reportedly on his way from London to Buxton in Derbyshire to take healing baths, as he had been unwell for some time, suffering from what was described as a recurring fever. The management of the Wychwood Forests was, at this period, often granted as favours to court favourites, as Dudley was under Queen Elizabeth I. He stopped at Cornbury Park to rest and hunt. According to the legends, which first appeared in written form in Elias Ashmole's Antiquities of Berkshire in 1719, his former wife, Amy Robsart, appeared before him as a ghostly apparition while he was riding through the forest. She delivered an ominous message, confronting him over his ambition and alleged complicity in her death. She foretold the Earl's imminent reunion with her in the afterlife, specifying it would occur in just 10 days. True to this spectral promise, the Earl's existing illness worsened dramatically shortly after this eerie encounter. He abandoned his journey to Buxton and died on September 4th, 1588, at his house, Cornbury Park. The cause of death was recorded as a severe fever, likely malaria, but local law has forever maintained that he died of fright, his life extinguished by the ghostly prophecy of the wife he had lost so many years before. Whether this was a happy reunion between two who had once married for love, or a final vengeful push from the wife who stood between him and the crown, remains unknown. The legend adds a chilling postscript. Anyone who dares to encounter the ghost of Amy Robsart in Wychwood Forest is destined to meet the same fate as her husband, dying shortly after the sighting. This curse has attached itself to the forest, transforming the tragic figure of Amy into a harbinger of doom for those who wander its paths. Amy Robsart's ghost is not said to haunt Wychwood Forest exclusively. For over 2 centuries, her spirit was most famously associated with Cumnor Place itself. Until the property was demolished in 1810, local people reported seeing her shimmering form appear by the very staircase where she died. She was frequently seen lingering at the bottom of the stairs where her body was found, a silent, sorrowful figure. Most sightings were reportedly around Christmas time. An 18th century poem, Cumnor Hall by William Mickle, published in 1783, reflects this long-standing tradition. And in that manner now no more is cheerful feast and sprightly ballet. For ever since that dreary hour have spirits haunted Cumnor Hall. It is said that the place harboured a haunting and oppressive atmosphere after her death, so much so that action was deemed necessary. According to one legend, 9 parsons from Oxford, armed with bell, book and candle, came to Cumnor to perform an exorcism. The ritual was a lengthy spiritual struggle, but they eventually succeeded in compelling Amy Robsart's ghost into a nearby pond, hoping to contain her spirit within the body of water. This particular pond is famously said not to have frozen over since that day, even in the harshest of winters, and became known locally as Madam Dudley's Pond. The haunted reputation of Cumnor Hall persisted until its demolition, an event precipitated in part by the immense popularity of Sir Walter Scott's 1821 novel, Kenilworth, which fictionalised Amy's story and drew crowds of morbidly curious tourists to the already crumbling ruins. The owner, the Earl of Abingdon, had the remains torn down to stop the trespassers. Like many famous ghosts, Amy Robsart's spirit is claimed by multiple locations connected to her life and death. Before her grand burial at the Church of St Mary, the Virgin in Oxford, Amy Robsart's body lay in state at Gloucester Hall, which is now part of Worcester College, Oxford. It is rumoured that she haunts the college's common room as well, a restless spirit tied to the final ceremonial rites before she was interred. The mystery surrounding her held particular sway over the Victorian imagination, with portraits of her as a melancholic young woman and history paintings depicting her at the foot of the stairwell, becoming popular subjects for artists like Thomas Francis Dixie. She was also reportedly seen at Old Siderston Hall in Norfolk, where her parents lived, until that property was also demolished. Additionally, priests living at the nearby rectory complained of poltergeist activity attributed to her, with objects being moved and strange noises heard in the night. After Cumnor Place was demolished, the legend suggests her ghost travelled back to Rainthorpe Hall in Tasburg, near Norwich, a property once owned by the Robsart family. According to this legend, she visits on the anniversary of her death and can be seen sitting in the garden with a gentleman, although it is debated whether this is her husband, Robert Dudley, or her half-brother, John Appleyard, who initially defended Dudley but later turned against him. This splintering of her ghostly presence across multiple sites speaks to the enduring power of her story and the unresolved questions surrounding her death, leaving a psychic imprint on every place associated with her tragic life. Back in the ancient forest, Amy Robsart's story is not the only spectral tale to linger among the twisted trunks of oak and ash. The long and often brutal history of Wychwood has given rise to other phantoms. Another strange and persistent ghost story describes the legend of a horse-drawn carriage passing silently and swiftly through the woods on moonless nights. Within the carriage, the spectral figures of a pair of crying children can be glimpsed, their hands pressed against the glass. Their identities remain unknown, lost to time, but the tale evokes the grim realities of the past. Some connect the story to the Babes in the Wood folk tale, a story of abandoned children left to die in a forest, a tale that has variations across England. Others speculate they may be the children of a local family who became lost in the vast woods centuries ago, or perhaps the victims of some forgotten crime, their sorrowful journey replaying for eternity. The sound of their phantom weeping is said to be carried on the wind, a deeply unsettling sound in the dead of night. There are also countless tales from hikers and wanderers in the forest who have felt the distinct and unnerving touch of an unseen hand on their shoulder, only to turn around and find no one there. This tactile haunting is one of the most commonly reported phenomena in Wychwood. It is often described as a cold, firm pressure, as if someone is trying to get their attention. Could this be the lingering touch of Amy Robsart, still attempting to convey a message to those who walk through these ancient haunted woods? Or perhaps it is one of the many other spirits tied to the forest's past, a medieval poacher warning of an approaching gamekeeper, or a keeper himself, still patrolling his beat from beyond the grave. The social turmoil of the 19th century added another layer of discontent and potential psychic residue to the forest. For centuries, the common people of the 32 townships bordering Wychwood had enjoyed certain rights, such as grazing their animals and collecting firewood. This all came to an end with the Wychwood Disafforestation Act of 1853. The Act, passed by Parliament, effectively privatised the forest, enclosing over 3,000 acres of land and extinguishing the ancient common rights. This was met with widespread anger and resistance. Riots broke out and fences erected by the new landowners were torn down in protest. The loss of these rights plunged many local families into poverty and was seen as a profound injustice. This period of intense social conflict and hardship is believed by some to have created its own ghosts. The spirits of angry and dispossessed commoners are said to wander the areas that were once their ancestral right, forever protesting their loss. Some paranormal investigators who have visited the forest report a palpable sense of anger and resentment in certain areas, particularly along the old boundary lines where the enclosures took place. Electronic voice phenomena, or EVP, sessions conducted by groups such as the Oxford Ghost Stalkers in the early 2000s have reportedly captured disembodied voices whispering words like mine and leave. While such evidence is anecdotal, it contributes to the forest's reputation as a place holding the echoes of past grievances. One specific location associated with this unrest is the area around Leafield, a village that was once at the heart of the forest. Leafield villagers were particularly hard hit by the enclosures, and local stories tell of a spectral figure, a man in simple 19th century labourer's clothing, seen walking the footpaths at dusk before fading into the trees. He is thought to be the ghost of a man who lost everything and now wanders the land that was taken from him. The physical nature of the forest itself, with its dense thickets, ancient gnarled trees and sudden mists, lends itself to supernatural interpretation. The oldest trees, some of which are veteran oaks dating back over 500 years, were silent witnesses to the events of Amy Robsart's time and the centuries of hardship that preceded and followed it. These trees are often the focus of strange occurrences. A particular gnarled oak near one of the ancient rides is known locally as the hanging tree, though there is no official record confirming its use for executions. Nevertheless, visitors to the tree have reported a sudden and overwhelming sense of dread, a feeling of being watched from the branches above, and the distinct sensation of a tightening around their neck. Modern paranormal groups have measured significant electromagnetic field, or EMF, fluctuations around this tree, a phenomenon they often associate with the presence of spiritual energy. On a clear day in October 2011, a pair of amateur photographers taking pictures of the autumn foliage near the tree were startled to find a strange misty anomaly appearing in their digital photographs when they reviewed them later. The shape, indistinct but vaguely human, was not visible to the naked eye when the photo was taken. They submitted the image to a local paranormal research society, which noted its similarity to other spirit photography captured in historically charged locations. The forest's unique geology and hydrology may also play a role. The area is underlain by limestone, which is known to contain underground streams and caverns. Some paranormal theories, such as the stone tape theory, propose that strong emotional events can be recorded in the environment, particularly in rock and water, and replayed under certain atmospheric conditions. The combination of intense historical trauma and the specific geological makeup of Wychwood could, according to this hypothesis, create the perfect conditions for the replay of past events, manifesting as apparitions, sounds, and physical sensations. The feeling of a cold spot in an otherwise temperate area of the wood, another frequently reported phenomenon, could be interpreted as a ghostly presence, or it could be a microclimate created by air emerging from a subterranean fissure. This intersection of science and superstition, of measurable phenomena and unexplainable experiences, is at the heart of Wychwood's enduring mystery. Every rustle of leaves, every shadow that plays tricks on the eye, and every sudden chill in the air can be questioned. Is it merely the wind, or is it the whisper of a ghost from Wychwood's long and troubled past? Hoya Baciu Forest, Romania. The Hoya Baciu Forest, located to the west of Cluj-Napoca in Transylvania, Romania, spans approximately 3 square kilometers and has garnered an international reputation as the world's most haunted forest. its enigmatic phenomena and chilling legends have made it a focal point for paranormal researchers and dark tourists alike, often earning it the moniker the Bermuda Triangle of Romania due to reported disappearances and time anomalies. Archaeological discoveries confirm the forest's ancient human presence. The oldest Neolithic settlement in Romania, believed to have been established around 6500 BC and belonging to the Starkovo-Korus culture, was unearthed north of Valea Longa. Tombs and houses from this settlement were uncovered between 1960 and 1994. This deep historical and prehistoric connection to human activity adds another layer of intrigue to the forest's supernatural claims. One of the most compelling and frequently recounted tales of the Hoya Baciu forest involves the alleged vanishing and reappearance of a young girl, seemingly untouched by the passage of time. According to the circulating narrative, in the late 20th century, a 5-year-old girl was picnicking with her parents in the forest. She reportedly wandered away from their sight and vanished without a trace. Extensive searches by local authorities and volunteers yielded no results, and she was presumed lost. However, 5 years after her disappearance, the girl astonishingly reappeared in the very same area of the forest from which she had vanished. She was found wearing the same clothes, which were remarkably well preserved, and critically she showed no signs of aging or having endured a prolonged period in the wilderness. Upon her return, she was unable to recall where she had been or what had transpired during her missing years, expressing confusion about the attention her reappearance garnered. This story, while captivating and widely shared, lacks verifiable evidence. No public records or documented police reports exist to substantiate the incident. Despite this, it remains a cornerstone of the forest's paranormal lore, frequently cited by believers as evidence of time slips, interdimensional travel, or other inexplicable phenomena within Hoya Baciu. Skeptics, however, often categorize it as an urban legend, drawing parallels to classic folklore tropes. Another widely reported phenomenon centers around the clearing, a circular area within the forest where no trees or vegetation grow, despite the surrounding fertile soil. This clearing is considered a powerful focal point of paranormal activity, with many claiming it to be a multidimensional portal or a place where the veil between worlds is exceptionally thin. Visitors to the clearing frequently report sudden, inexplicable temperature drops. Even on warm days and the erratic malfunctioning of electronic devices, compasses often spin wildly and mobile phone batteries drain at an accelerated rate, leaving visitors disoriented and without navigation tools. Unexplained sounds are also common, including inexplicably heavy footsteps circling groups with no visible source, along with disembodied whispers and faint laughter echoing through the trees, contributing to a pervasive sense of unease. Visual anomalies are among the most alarming reports, with fleeting shadows and human-like figures seen moving just beyond the reach of flashlight beams, exhibiting unnatural speed and agility. Some individuals report physical effects upon entering the clearing, such as sudden dizziness, an oppressive feeling of being watched, and even unexplained scratches appearing on their bodies despite no contact with foliage or obstacles. One specific incident, widely cited among enthusiasts, reportedly occurred on August 18, 1999, involving a group of 5 hikers from Cluj-Napoca. They described experiencing all these phenomena: temperature drops, electronic failures, strange sounds, visual anomalies, and physical effects. Upon nearing and entering the clearing, they hastily left, and upon exiting the forest, their symptoms ceased and devices returned to normal. While a local paranormal investigation team conducted a follow-up, they were unable to replicate the phenomena, leaving the incident unexplained and contributing to the forest's mystique. Beyond the clearing, the Hoya Baciu Forest is famous for UFO sightings. One of the most significant and often referenced incidents occurred in 1968, when military technician Emil Barnier reportedly captured a photograph of what he insisted was a UFO. Barnier's photograph, widely circulated among UFO enthusiasts, led to him losing his job under the communist government at the time, which largely dismissed such claims. Despite the personal cost, Barnier steadfastly maintained the validity of his sighting, adding weight to his account, as he seemingly had nothing to gain from fabricating the story. This incident significantly contributed to the forest's reputation as a hotspot for extraterrestrial activity. Personal testimonies from visitors further fuel the forest's ominous reputation. Many describe a pervasive sense of being watched, often accompanied by intense anxiety or nausea. Physical symptoms reported include severe rashes, headaches, and even burns, with no discernible cause. A Hoya Baciu tour guide named Alex recounted an incident where a man went crazy, believing he had met a demon. This man had recently gotten a large demon tattoo on his chest, ostensibly to ward off evil, making his perceived encounter even more unsettling. Another guide shared a harrowing account of an extended night tour with a morbid man obsessed with death, making for a profoundly disturbing experience. The strange contorted shapes of many trees within the Hoya Baciu Forest also contribute to its otherworldly atmosphere. Many trees grow in unusual, almost twisted patterns, with trunks bending and intertwining in ways that defy normal arboreal growth. While some attribute this to environmental factors or specific tree diseases, others see it as a visual manifestation of the strange energies or forces at play within the forest, adding to its surreal and unsettling appearance. The legend of dimensional portals suggests specific areas within the forest where the veil between our world and other dimensions is thinner or even torn. These spots are described as gateways or portals to alternate realities. Individuals who claim to have passed through these portals speak of experiencing disorientation, missing time, or even vivid brief moments in what they perceive to be alternate realities, with their devices showing lost time upon their return. Photographic evidence, though subject to skepticism, often includes images of orbs of light, unusual mists, or shapes resembling doorways, which believers interpret as proof of interdimensional connections. Theories for these phenomena range from scientific speculations involving unique magnetic fields or geomagnetic forces to more esoteric explanations involving spirits, aliens, or interdimensional beings. Dow Hill Forest, Kurseong, India. In the picturesque hills of Kurseong, West Bengal, approximately 30 kilometers from Darjeeling lies Dow Hill, a place steeped in mystery and dark legends. Known as the Land of White Orchids in the Lepcha language, after the indigenous people who first settled the area, Dow Hill has been the subject of countless paranormal sightings and eerie occurrences. While offering fantastic views of the Tiesta Valley and the surrounding Himalayan ranges, and a pleasant climate that made it popular with the British during colonial times, it is also notoriously known as a very haunted place. From ghostly apparitions to inexplicable footsteps, many visitors and locals have reported feeling an unnerving presence, particularly in the dense forests surrounding the old school. The core of Dow Hill's haunting reputation stems from its two historical schools, Dow Hill Girls' School and Victoria Boys' School. Victoria Boys' School, established in 1879 by the British government, is one of the oldest schools in India. Initially named after Sir Ashley Eden, the Lieutenant Governor of Bengal from 1877 to 1879, its name was changed to Dow Hill School in 1926. It was originally intended for the children of British officers stationed in India and railway employees, later opening its doors to Indian students. It is this boys' school that is purportedly haunted, with legends stating that the school's history, despite its esteemed facade, is marred by tragedies. Unofficial local legends speak of murders and accidents in the area around Dow Hill over the years. Additionally, the school has experienced numerous student and teacher deaths due to illnesses. While there are no official written records to substantiate these claims, the rumours persist, intertwining the school's past with the surrounding forest's dark reputation. Some speculate that the darkness and hauntings originating in the forest have permeated the school, or vice versa. The most intense period for reported hauntings at Victoria Boys' School is during the months of December to March, when the school is closed for holidays. During this time, despite no one being present, whispers and footsteps seemingly from children are reportedly heard from within the school's old buildings. Many of these stories come from the guards tasked with looking after the premises during the breaks. These guards claim to hear children's voices in the dark corridors and to see spectral students within the school grounds when no one should be there. Furthermore, the headless ghost of the boy from the nearby forest is also said to manifest within the school's vicinity. There have been claims of people seeing the ghost of a boy looking at them through the school windows. Despite these numerous ghost stories, the school management consistently denies that any deaths have occurred on the school grounds. The Dow Hill Forest itself is dense and eerie, surrounding the school and contributing significantly to the area's paranormal activity. Many individuals have reported feeling an unnerving presence within the forest, an uncomfortable sensation of being watched. One of the most frequently recounted sightings is that of a headless boy near what locals refer to as Death Road, the stretch between Dow Hill Road and the forest office. Both visitors and local woodcutters have reported seeing a young boy walking along this road, only for him to mysteriously vanish into the thick forest. Those who have attempted to follow him report that he simply disappears into thin air amidst the dense foliage. Some witnesses even claim to have seen the headless boy chasing after them, or to have been watched by disembodied red eyes. The forest is also rumoured to be home to the ghost of a young girl or woman dressed in grey, wandering through its mystic depths. Perhaps the most disturbing rumours associated with this haunted forest are those of people being driven mad or sent into a trance-like state after prolonged exposure to its eerie atmosphere. In recent years, particularly during the month of October, the legends surrounding Dow Hill Forest and Victoria Boys School have spread, attracting a wider audience of paranormal enthusiasts and ghost hunters. This surge in visitors has led to increased activity around the school and forest. Consequently, the school management and local police have deemed it necessary to erect signs designating protected areas and no-entry zones to deter people from trespassing on school grounds. They also explicitly deny permission for individuals to spend the night in the forest, raising questions about the specific reasons for such strict prohibitions in these woods. This official response further fuels the intrigue surrounding Dow Hill, suggesting that there is indeed something about the area they wish to keep under wraps. While specific dates for individual paranormal encounters are rare due to their anecdotal nature, the consistent reports across decades, particularly from school guards during the winter closure, provide a temporal pattern. The local folklore around the headless boy has been circulating for an unspecified but significant period, indicating a deeply ingrained belief in the area's supernatural reputation among the community. The shift from a primarily local legend to a wider tourist attraction in the last couple of years leading up to October suggests a recent increase in documented visits and subsequent official responses from school and police authorities. This period of heightened external interest aligns with the increased need for no-entry signs and denied permits for overnight stays, pointing to a contemporary struggle between local legend, modern tourism, and official management of the site. Sherwood Forest, England. Sherwood Forest, located in Nottinghamshire within the East Midlands region of England, is more than just the legendary home of Robin Hood. It is an ancient royal forest with a deep and complex history, recognised for its exceptional ecological value. Its status as a royal forest was formally proclaimed by William the Conqueror, and it was officially mentioned in the Domesday Book, a comprehensive survey of England commissioned by William III in 1086. Today, the Sherwood Forest National Nature Reserve encompasses 424.75 hectares, approximately 1,049.6 acres, of protected land surrounding the village of Edwinstowe and the site of Thoresby Hall. This reserve boasts the highest concentration of ancient trees in Europe, a remarkable collection of over 1,000 ancient oaks, many of which are known to be more than 500 years old. The most famous of these, the major oak, is estimated to be twice that age, at least 800 to 1,000 years old. The area where much of the ancient oaks reside was historically known as Birchland, a name of Viking origin, now referred to as Birklands. The strength and quality of the oak trees from Sherwood Forest were highly prized, so much so that they were used in significant historical constructions, including the roof of St Paul's Cathedral in London and the naval fleet of 1st Viscount Nelson built during the Napoleonic Wars. The name Sherwood itself provides a clue to its ancient origins. In 958 AD, it was recorded as Skirsuda, which translates to the woodland belonging to the Shire. This etymology highlights its status as the Shire or Sher Wood of Nottinghamshire. Historically, the forest extended into several neighbouring counties, bordered to the west by the River Erewash and the Forest of East Derbyshire, underscoring its vast geographical extent in earlier centuries. The earliest formal record of the forest by name, Skirjuda, dates to 958 AD. A significant historical event linked to the forest occurred in 633 AD, when King Edwin of Northumbria was killed at Hatfield Chase in a battle against his Mercian rival, King Penda of Mercia. Following his death, Edwin's body was reportedly carried into Sherwood Forest and either buried or hidden in St Mary's Church in Edwinstowe. His head was later interred in York and his body in Whitby. The village of Edwinstowe itself derives its name from King Edwin of Northumbria, cementing this historical connection. While Robin Hood and his band of merry men, known for stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, are the most famous figures associated with Sherwood Forest. The forest is also rich in other folklore and paranormal accounts. The folklore of Robin Hood also has close links with the ancient folklore of the Green Man, dating back to the 17th century. Beyond these well-known tales, Sherwood Forest holds other, more unsettling stories. In terms of the occult, an area within the forest known as the Bowl is rumoured to have been a significant site for witchcraft and rituals. In 2017, Lee Roberts, a professional ghost hunter from Sutton, confirmed this on Knott's TV, stating, "Sherwood Forest has a history of witchcraft. The Bowl area of Sherwood Forest is a very haunted area. It was also known as a medieval burial ground, and also where people used to gather and do witchcraft back in the 18th and 17th century. The hauntings within Sherwood Forest are also a subject of widespread interest." According to Nottingham-based Brooks Paranormal, an organisation that facilitates ghost walks across the county, several mediums and paranormal investigators have reported sensing the spirit of Robin Hood himself within the forest. There have also been numerous accounts of dark hooded druid figures seen walking the forest paths and among the trees, believed to be the apparitions of pagan worshippers from England's ancient past. Brooks Paranormal's website also details sightings of the ghost of a white lady in one part of the forest, accompanied by the disembodied sounds of children laughing nearby. Other ghost stories include reports from walkers who claim to hear the sounds of shelling and gunfire, believed to be echoes of the Sherwood Foresters training for war. This particular phenomenon is historically linked to the forest's extensive use by the military during World War II, when large sections were transformed into ammunition stores, camps, prisoner of war camps, displaced persons camps, and training areas, leaving a palpable, lingering energy of conflict. The violent and tumultuous history that has unfolded within and around the forest's ancient boundaries provides a fertile ground for such paranormal claims. The deep-rooted association with witchcraft in the area known as the Bowl is particularly potent. This natural amphitheatre-like depression in the landscape is said to have been used not only for pagan rituals, but also as an unconsecrated burial ground during the medieval period. Such locations, where the dead were interred without Christian rites, are often central to tales of restless spirits in English folklore. The energy of these clandestine gatherings and unhallowed burials is believed by many paranormal researchers to have permanently stained the location, making it a focal point for supernatural activity. Investigators visiting the Bowl have reported sudden and inexplicable drops in temperature, the feeling of being watched by unseen eyes from the surrounding trees, and the capture of electronic voice phenomena, or EVPs, which are believed to be the voices of spirits. Some recordings allegedly contain whispers and chants in a language that investigators have been unable to identify, fueling speculation about the survival of ancient, pre-Christian ritual practices. The hooded figures often reported in this area and throughout the Birkeland section of the forest are frequently described as moving silently and deliberately, sometimes in single file, as if participating in a solemn procession. Their appearance is not fleeting. Witnesses have claimed to watch them for several minutes before they seem to dissolve into the shadows between the ancient oaks. These sightings are distinct from other apparitions, as the figures rarely interact with the environment or observers, suggesting a residual haunting, a spiritual recording of a past event replaying itself over and over. The military presence in Sherwood Forest, especially during the two world wars, has left its own indelible spectral mark. During the First World War, large numbers of troops from the Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire Regiment, famously known as the Sherwood Foresters, trained here before being deployed to the trenches of the Western Front. The forest was used for trench digging practice, route marches and rifle training. During the Second World War, the military's use of the forest intensified dramatically. A vast ordnance depot, one of the largest in the United Kingdom, was established, with thousands of tons of ammunition stored in specially constructed bunkers hidden among the trees. The forest also housed prisoner of war camps and training facilities for various Allied units. The disembodied sounds of gunfire, shouted commands, and even the distant rumble of explosions reported by modern-day visitors are directly linked to this period. Paranormal investigators theorize that the intense emotions of fear, anticipation and aggression associated with military training and the storage of munitions created a powerful psychic imprint on the landscape. Some walkers have reported smelling cordite or hearing the distinct metallic sound of shell casings hitting the forest floor, only to find nothing upon investigation. There are also accounts of lone, spectral soldiers in period uniform seen patrolling paths that were once boundaries of military camps, their figures appearing solid for a moment before vanishing completely. These apparitions are often described with a great deal of detail, down to the cap badges and webbing, by witnesses who have no prior knowledge of the specific military history of the area they are in. Just beyond the modern boundaries of the National Nature Reserve lies another site steeped in paranormal lore and historically tied to Sherwood, Rufford Abbey. Originally a Cistercian monastery founded in 1147, it was seized by the Crown during the dissolution of the monasteries under King Henry VIII in the 1530s. This violent suppression of the Catholic monastic orders is a common source of ghost stories across England, and Rufford is no exception. The abbey is reputed to be haunted by the spirits of the monks who were driven from their home. Visitors to the abbey ruins and the adjacent country park have frequently reported seeing phantom monks in white habits gliding through the ancient undercroft or walking the old cloister grounds. Their chants are sometimes heard on the wind at dusk, a mournful echo of their lost way of life. However, Rufford's most famous ghost is the White Lady, believed to be the tragic spirit of Lady Arbella Stuart. Arbella, born in 1575, was a cousin of Queen Elizabeth I and King James I, and for a time she was considered a potential successor to the English throne. Her life was one of political intrigue and personal tragedy. In 1610 she secretly married William Seymour, another claimant to the throne, without royal permission. This act enraged King James, who viewed it as a threat. The couple was arrested, and while William eventually escaped to France, Arbella was captured and imprisoned in the Tower of London. She died there in 1615, allegedly after refusing to eat. Her spirit is said to have returned to Rufford Abbey, a place she knew in life as it was owned by her guardian, the Earl of Shrewsbury. Her apparition, a forlorn figure in a white gown, is most often seen near the lake and in the oldest parts of the remaining structure. Her presence is often accompanied by a profound sense of sadness and despair. Some reports claim her ghost attempts to communicate, her whispers too faint to be understood, a spectral plea for the freedom she was denied in life. Another major historical site on the fringes of Sherwood Forest with a formidable reputation for hauntings is Newstead Abbey. Like Rufford, it was an Augustinian priory founded in the 12th century and was dissolved by Henry VIII. It later became the ancestral home of the poet Lord Byron, who lived there from 1808 to 1814. Byron himself was fascinated by the supernatural and wrote of the abbey's resident ghost, the Black Friar. According to legend, the Black Friar is the spirit of a monk who opposed the dissolution of the priory and was subsequently murdered. His ghost is said to appear as a dark, cowled figure and is considered an omen of misfortune for the inhabitants of Newstead. Byron claimed to have seen the apparition shortly before his ill-fated marriage to Annabella Milbank. The poet's own turbulent life, filled with scandal, debt and creative genius, is said to have added to the spectral energy of the location. Visitors to Newstead Abbey have reported a wide range of paranormal phenomena. Besides the Black Friar, the ghost of a White Lady is also seen, believed to be Sophia Hyatt, a young woman who followed Byron to Newstead and lived in disguise near the abbey. Her ghost is reportedly seen wandering the gardens. The sound of a spectral dog, thought to be Byron's beloved Newfoundland Bosun, is sometimes heard in the vicinity of the dog's grand tomb in the abbey grounds. Poltergeist activity, such as objects being moved and doors opening and closing on their own, has also been reported in the private apartments. The sheer number and variety of hauntings reported at Newstead make it one of the most paranormally active sites in Nottinghamshire, its history deeply intertwined with that of the adjacent forest. The very heart of the Robin Hood legend is also a source of specific ghostly encounters. The village of Edwinstowe, located within the forest, is home to the Church of St. Mary, the site where Robin Hood and Maid Marian are said to have been married. The church itself has a history stretching back to at least 633 AD, with the current structure dating mainly from the 12th century. The ancient yew tree in the churchyard is thought to be contemporary with the original church, a silent witness to centuries of history. King Edwin of Northumbria's body was reputedly brought here after his death in battle, creating a foundational story of death and sanctity. Paranormal investigators who have conducted vigils in the church have reported encountering a number of spirits. The ghost of a grey lady is said to wander the nave, her identity lost to time, though some speculate she could be a bereaved mother or a jilted bride from a past century. The sounds of a phantom organ have been heard playing late at night when the church is empty and the instrument is locked. Furthermore, the psychic energy surrounding the legend of Robin Hood is palpable here. Mediums have claimed to make contact with spirits who identify themselves as members of the famous outlaw band. While claims of channeling Robin Hood himself are common throughout the forest, the church in Edwinstowe is considered a particularly strong nexus for this energy, being the legendary site of his only known sacrament. Visitors often report a feeling of being in the presence of something ancient and powerful within the church walls, an atmosphere that transcends simple historical reverence and enters the realm of the supernatural. The archaeological record of the wider Sherwood landscape also contributes to its haunted reputation, revealing a long history of human activity, ritual and death that predates even the Saxons and Vikings. While not directly within the modern forest reserve, the limestone gorge of Creswell Crags on the border of Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire is part of the same ancient regional landscape. This site contains a series of caves that were occupied by humans during the last ice age, between 50,000 and 10,000 years ago. The caves have yielded not only the northernmost cave art in Europe, but also a darker, more mysterious discovery. In 2018, during a tour, a member of the public noticed an abundance of strange symbols and letters carved into the walls of one of the caves, previously dismissed as Victorian graffiti. Experts from the universities of Sheffield and Leicester were called in to examine the markings. Their analysis, confirmed in 2019, revealed that these were not graffiti, but were in fact apotropaic marks, also known as witch marks. The discovery was astounding. It was the largest collection of such protective marks ever found in one place in the United Kingdom. Hundreds of symbols, including letters like V for Virgin of Virgins and PM for Pace Maria, as well as complex designs like boxes and mazes, were deliberately etched into the rock. These marks were created over centuries, likely from the medieval period up to the 19th century, and were intended to trap or ward off evil spirits emerging from the underworld, which the caves were believed to represent. This archaeological find is direct, physical evidence of a deeply held and long-lasting belief among local people that the area was a gateway for malevolent supernatural forces. This long history of fear and ritual protection provides a powerful context for the paranormal lore of the entire Sherwood region, suggesting that the feeling of a haunted landscape is not a modern fancy but an ancient ingrained part of the local psyche. The physical remnants of royalty and power also litter the historical landscape of Sherwood, providing more potential sources for hauntings. At the heart of the medieval forest, near the village of Clipston, lie the ruins of King John's Palace. This was once a vast and important royal residence, used as a hunting lodge and administrative centre by numerous monarchs from Henry II in the 12th century through to the late 15th century. King John, the infamous villain of the Robin Hood legends, frequently stayed here, as did his brother Richard the Lionheart. The palace was a site of royal power, feasting and political intrigue. By the 16th century it had fallen into disrepair, and today only fragments of its foundations and walls remain, overgrown and reclaimed by nature. These lonely ruins are, unsurprisingly, associated with paranormal activity. Visitors have reported seeing the apparition of a royal figure on horseback riding near the site, believed by some to be the ghost of King John himself, forever hunting in his favourite forest. The sounds of a spectral banquet, with faint music and laughter, have been heard emanating from the empty grounds where the Great Hall once stood. There are also darker tales of shadowy figures flitting between the ruined walls, perhaps the spirits of courtiers or servants tied to the palace's dramatic history. The decline of such a significant centre of power into ruin is a classic trope for a haunting, the residual energy of centuries of royal drama playing out in the quiet of the reclaimed woodland. The specific case of the White Lady of Sherwood Forest, as reported by Brooks Paranormal and other local groups, merits closer examination. While the White Lady of Rufford Abbey is identified as Arbella Stewart, the apparition seen within the main forest area is more enigmatic. She's often sighted in a particular clearing not far from the major oak, and her appearance is frequently presaged by the disembodied laughter of children. Witnesses describe a tall, slender woman in a long, flowing white or pale grey dress. She does not appear threatening, but her presence evokes a deep sense of melancholy. Unlike the druid figures, she sometimes seems to acknowledge her surroundings, looking around as if searching for someone or something she has lost. The accompanying sound of children laughing is particularly disturbing to those who hear it, as it seems to come from all directions at once, and there are never any children to be seen. Several theories have been proposed by paranormal researchers. One suggests she's the spirit of a mother who lost her children in the forest centuries ago and is doomed to search for them for eternity. Another connects her to the Babes in the Wood folklore, a tale of two young children abandoned to die in a forest, which has strong local connections to Norfolk but has been adapted into the lore of many English woodlands. A third theory posits that she is not a single entity but a manifestation of a woman in white archetype, a common figure in ghost lore globally, often representing loss, betrayal, or tragic death. Regardless of her origin, the consistent reporting of this specific combination of phenomena, the sad lady, the phantom laughter, makes it one of Sherwood Forest's most compelling and mysterious hauntings. The very trees of Sherwood are considered by many to be conduits, or even reservoirs of paranormal energy. The forest collection of over 1,000 ancient oaks, some of which were saplings when the Magna Carta was signed in 1215, are central to this belief. The major oak, with its gnarled branches and hollow trunk, is the epicenter. For centuries, it has been a place of pilgrimage, not just for tourists but for those drawn to its perceived spiritual power. Pagans and modern-day druids continue to hold rituals here, particularly during solstices and equinoxes, believing the tree to be a living connection to the Earth's ancient energies. Paranormal investigators using equipment like electromagnetic field (EMF) meters have recorded anomalous spikes in energy around the major oak and other ancient trees, particularly at night. These fluctuations are not easily explained by conventional sources like power lines or mobile phones, which are scarce in the heart of the reserve. Psychics and mediums have described the trees as having their own consciousness, or as acting as antennae for spiritual communications, storing the emotional imprints of events that have occurred in their long lifespans. This includes not just the legends of Robin Hood, but also the secret rituals of witches, the quiet desperation of outlaws hiding from the law, the passion of clandestine lovers, and the fear of soldiers preparing for war. According to this view, to walk through the Berklands area of Sherwood is to walk through a living library of human emotion, and the reported ghosts are simply the most vivid stories being read aloud. This perspective bridges the gap between folklore, ecology, and paranormal investigation, suggesting that the haunting of Sherwood Forest is an intrinsic quality of its ancient and enduring landscape. The systematic investigation of Sherwood's hauntings by organised groups has produced a body of anecdotal evidence that, while not scientific proof, is detailed and consistent. Groups like the aforementioned Brooks Paranormal, East Midlands Paranormal, and the UK Ghost Hunting Company have all led numerous public and private vigils in the forest. Their published findings often include similar elements. Electronic voice phenomena are a common find, with recordings capturing single words like leave, king, or help, as well as unexplained whistles and growls. Thermal imaging cameras have captured cold spots that move intelligently against air currents and occasional human-shaped figures that appear for a few frames before vanishing. A phenomenon known as light anomalies or orbs is frequently captured on camera, and while often dismissed as dust or insects, investigators point to instances where the orbs appear to move with deliberate intent or respond to questions. Direct physical experiences are also commonly reported by participants in these ghost hunts. These include being touched or pushed by an unseen force, having clothing tugged, and hearing footsteps on dry leaves right behind them when no one is there. One specific area near the visitor centre is known for reports of a disembodied voice that whispers directly into people's ears. The consistency of these reported experiences across different groups and over many years suggests that people are interacting with a genuine, albeit unexplained, set of phenomena within the forest. The specific details, such as the location of certain sounds or the nature of particular apparitions, are repeated too often to be dismissed as mere coincidence by those who study the paranormal. forming a modern layer of lore built upon the foundation of centuries of history and folklore. Devil's Tramping Ground, North Carolina, USA. The Devil's Tramping Ground, also known as the Devil's Stomping Ground, is an enigmatic clearing located in a remote forest near the Harper's Crossroads area in Bear Creek, North Carolina. This circular patch of barren earth has been the subject of persistent local legends and lore for generations, captivating the imagination with the chilling assertion that the devil himself tramps and haunts this spot, preventing any vegetation from growing within its boundaries. Its unusual nature has frequently earned it a place on lists of strange and mysterious locations. The legends surrounding this peculiar ring are deeply ingrained in the local communities. The circle itself measures a near-perfect 40 feet, which is approximately 12 meters in diameter. For well over a century, and possibly longer, the ground within this circle has remained mysteriously devoid of significant vegetation. The most common tales are reports of objects left within the ring overnight mysteriously disappearing or being forcefully thrown out of the circle by morning. Dogs, it is said, exhibit extreme agitation, yipping and howling, and adamantly refuse to go near the circle, suggesting an unseen malevolent presence. Furthermore, strange and unsettling events are frequently reported by those brave enough to spend the night within its boundaries. The most striking claim, and the defining characteristic of the site, is that nothing has grown within the 40-foot diameter ring for over 100 years. Local folklore posits that this barren circle is where the devil walks in circles on certain nights, his infernal pacing a manifestation of his contemplation and plotting of new ways to unleash evil upon the world. The first documented mention of the phenomenon in a major publication appeared in the Fayetteville Observer on September 1, 1929. The article brought the local Chatham County legend to a much wider audience, detailing the core elements of the lore that persist to this day: the barren circle, the devil's nightly walks, and the strange occurrences reported by visitors. The story gained further traction when it was featured in the Greensboro Daily News in 1934, cementing its status as a statewide curiosity. One of the most influential figures in popularizing the legend was John William Hardin, a respected journalist and author from Greensboro. In his 1949 book, The Devil's Tramping Ground and Other North Carolina Mystery Stories, Hardin offered a poignant description of the site that captured the local sentiment. He stated, "Chatham natives say that the devil goes there to walk in circles as he thinks up new means of causing trouble for humanity. There, sometimes during the dark of night, the majesty of the underworld of evil silently tramps around that bare circle, thinking, plotting and planning against good in behalf of wrong." Hardin's work treated the legend with a serious tone, documenting the oral traditions and presenting the mystery as a genuine and unexplained piece of North Carolina's cultural landscape. He chronicled numerous accounts from locals who had attempted to spend the night, reporting that they witnessed shadowy figures and heard disembodied footsteps circling their campsite. These early accounts established a foundation for decades of paranormal speculation and investigation. One of the most persistent claims involves the inability to spend a full night within the circle's confines. A story recounted by Hardin and repeated through generations tells of a group of men who, armed with shotguns and fortified by courage, decided to camp in the very center of the ring. As the night wore on, they reportedly heard heavy, deliberate footsteps circling their tent. The sound grew closer and more menacing, accompanied by a feeling of intense dread. Despite their weapons, an overwhelming fear seized them, and they fled the circle in terror before dawn, vowing never to return. Another recurring tale involves the mysterious relocation of items. Locals have long dared visitors to place a heavy object, such as a rock or a log, in the center of the path before nightfall. By the next morning, the object is invariably found moved outside the circle's perimeter. There are no drag marks in the soil, no footprints, and no evidence of human or animal intervention. The objects are simply displaced, as if lifted and tossed aside by an unseen force. Attempts to force life upon the barren soil have also become part of the legend. People have reportedly tried planting seeds of various types, and even transplanting mature vegetation from the surrounding forest into the circle. In all documented attempts, the plants wither and die within days, refusing to take root in the sterile earth. This biological anomaly has fueled the supernatural explanations, suggesting a force actively repels life from the sacred or cursed ground. The sounds associated with the location are another key element of its haunted reputation. Visitors, especially those who stay after dusk, report a wide range of auditory phenomena. The most common is the sound of heavy rhythmic footsteps, perfectly matching the image of the devil pacing his circular path. Others have reported whispers in the woods just beyond the clearing, the sound of branches snapping when no one is there, and an eerie, unnatural silence that seems to absorb all ambient noise. On several occasions, campers have claimed to hear a low, guttural growl emanating from the darkness, a sound that instills a primal fear and sends even the most skeptical visitor packing. The rise of modern paranormal investigation brought new methods of scrutiny to the Devil's Tramping Ground. Teams with sophisticated equipment have visited the site, hoping to capture empirical evidence of the reported phenomena. In the 2000s, numerous independent ghost hunting groups from North Carolina and surrounding states conducted overnight investigations. Many of these groups reported significant electronic voice phenomena, or EVP recordings. In one investigation, a team left a digital recorder running in the center of the circle and reportedly captured a clear, malevolent-sounding whisper saying, "Get out." In another session, a different group claimed to have recorded a voice that, when analysed, seemed to say the name Horace, although the significance of this name remains unknown. Investigators also frequently report drastic and inexplicable temperature drops within the circle's boundaries. Even on warm, humid nights, the air inside the ring is said to suddenly become intensely cold. These cold spots are often localised and transient, moving around the circle as if an unseen entity is passing by. Electromagnetic field or EMF meters are also reported to behave erratically, with needles spiking to high levels without any apparent source of electrical interference. These readings are often correlated with feelings of nausea, dizziness, or intense anxiety among the investigators present. One of the most well-known investigations was conducted by the team from the television show Ghost Hunters International for an episode that aired in January 2011. The team, which included investigators Rob Demarest and Barry Fitzgerald, spent the night at the site deploying a range of high-tech equipment, including full-spectrum cameras, thermal imaging devices, and parabolic microphones. During their investigation, they documented several of the classic phenomena. The team reported experiencing a profound sense of being watched and followed by an unseen presence. At one point, a motion-activated camera captured a mysterious, fast-moving shadow that could not be explained. They also recorded several EVPs, with one investigator reporting feeling a cold touch on his neck immediately before a disembodied voice was captured on audio. Their personal experiences were intense. One member of the team felt an overwhelming sense of dread that forced him to leave the circle for a period of time to compose himself. While they did not capture an image of the devil, their findings lent a degree of modern validation to the historical legends, suggesting that the strange occurrences were not merely products of folklore or overactive imaginations. Visual phenomena are also a cornerstone of the site's lore. For decades, people have reported seeing strange lights in and around the Devil's Tramping Ground. These are often described as small, floating orbs of light, typically red or white, that move silently through the trees or hover directly over the barren circle before vanishing. In the 1970s, a photographer hoping to debunk the myths reportedly captured a photograph of a luminous spherical object hovering above the ground. While the photograph's authenticity has been debated, the account added to the growing body of evidence suggesting an unusual energy at the location. Some have speculated that these lights could be related to UFO activity, proposing that the barren circle might be a landing site for extraterrestrial craft. This theory suggests that the heat or radiation from a propulsion system could be responsible for sterilizing the soil, and the strange lights are manifestations of ongoing visitations. Others interpret the lights through a more traditional paranormal lens, believing them to be spirit orbs or some other form of ghostly energy. Another reported visual anomaly is the appearance of shadowy figures. These are often seen at the edge of one's peripheral vision, appearing as tall, dark humanoids standing just at the tree line, watching the circle. When one turns to look directly at them, they are gone. Campers have described waking in the middle of the night to see such a figure standing over them, only for it to dissipate into the darkness. Beyond the pervasive devil-centric explanation, numerous other theories have emerged to account for this strange North Carolina landmark. some believe the spot was an ancient meeting place for local Native American tribes. According to this theory, the Bear Circle was created and maintained by their ceremonial dances, with the constant treading of feet preventing any vegetation from growing. In this interpretation, the site is not evil, but sacred, and the strange phenomena are the work of guardian spirits protecting the holy ground. This narrative suggests that the fear and unease people feel is a result of their trespassing on a consecrated site. Another compelling, albeit speculative, explanation links the area to the famous legend of the lost colony of Roanoke Island. This story suggests that the tramping ground was an area known as Croatan, named for a fallen tribal chief buried there after a battle. In this context, the mysterious word Croatoan carved into a tree on Roanoke Island, a key unsolved mystery of the lost colony, would refer to this battle site. In both of these Native American-centric narratives, the tribal gods are purportedly believed to have preserved the barren circle as a memorial to their followers' loyalty, endowing the site with spiritual significance. The spirits of fallen warriors are said to be the ones who guard the circle, throwing out objects and creating sounds to scare away disrespectful intruders. Scientific explanations have also been offered to demystify the characteristics of the devil's tramping ground, though they often struggle to fully account for all the reported paranormal phenomena. One theory suggests that the spot was created by horses used in the operations of an old molasses mill. A central pole would have been placed in the middle of the ring, and one or more horses would have been tethered to a sweep arm, walking in a constant circle to power the mill and press juice from sorghum cane. The constant treading would have compacted the soil, and the spillage of cane juice could have altered its chemical composition. However, comparisons to the paths formed at similar historical mills have not fully supported this theory, as the devil's tramping ground's precise and consistent barrenness, maintained over such a long period, is considered unusual for such an activity. Furthermore, this theory does not offer any explanation for the disappearance of objects, the strange lights, or the disembodied sounds. Perhaps the most plausible scientific explanation arose from soil studies conducted by the North Carolina Department of Agriculture. In the mid-20th century, samples of earth taken directly from the Bear Path were collected and analysed. The results of these tests, which have been cited in numerous articles and books since, revealed that the soil within the circle was sterile due to an extremely high salt content and an unusual pH level, which makes it hostile to most forms of plant life. Geologists have pointed out that the area is near natural salt licks, suggesting that a high concentration of salt in this specific patch of ground could be a natural, if anomalous, geological feature. This scientific finding suggests that the high concentration of salt in the soil could inhibit plant growth. However, this explanation, while accounting for the barrenness, fails to address several other key mysteries. It does not explain the circle's remarkably perfect geometry and sharp defined edges, which look more artificial than like a natural mineral deposit. It also offers no answers for the wide array of paranormal experiences that have been consistently reported for over a century, including the auditory phenomena, the visual anomalies, and the physical displacement of objects. The high salt content cannot explain why dogs refuse to enter the circle, or why experienced investigators report feelings of intense dread and being physically touched by an unseen force. Paranormal author and investigator Jack L. Kosek, in his book The Ghostly Guide to North Carolina, provided a detailed account of his own investigation at the site. Kosek and his team visited on a clear night and set up audio and video recording equipment. He reported that early in the evening all was quiet, but as midnight approached, the atmosphere changed dramatically. The team's EMF meters, which had been stable, began to spike erratically in different spots around the circle. Kosek himself reported feeling a wave of nausea and disorientation while standing in the center. The most significant event of their investigation was the recording of what they claim are clear, disembodied footsteps on a parabolic microphone pointed at the empty path. The footsteps were heavy and rhythmic, circled the team's position twice, and then faded away. There was no one else present in the remote area. This experience led Kosek to conclude that while a natural explanation like soil salinity might account for the lack of vegetation, it was entirely separate from the paranormal activity, which he believed to be genuine. Old House Woods, Virginia, USA, Old House Woods, a roughly 50-acre expanse of dense woodland in Matthews County, Virginia, near the town of Diggs and bordered by the Chesapeake Bay, holds a centuries-old reputation as one of the most intensely haunted locations in the United States. Far from a tranquil coastal retreat, this forest is a nexus of paranormal activity, with reports stretching back to the earliest colonial days. The wood's thick canopy, which historically blocked out the sky, coupled with its strategic coastal location, made it an ideal clandestine harbour for various illicit activities, cementing its eerie legacy long before its most famous incidents occurred. The name Old House Woods itself derives from a specific colonial-era structure that stood deep within its confines. In the late 1700s, an abandoned building known locally as the Franny Knight House was located in the middle of these woods. The house was already believed to be infested with angry spirits before it became a focal point of extraordinary events. According to local accounts, the Franny Knight House spontaneously caught fire on at least 2 documented occasions. The first incident saw the building inexplicably ignite, only to extinguish itself without any human intervention. Years later, the same house caught fire again, this time burning completely to the ground, reducing the structure to dust. Locals at the time often remarked that it seemed as if the house itself willed its own destruction. The forest has since reclaimed the remains of the house, leaving no visible trace of the once haunted colonial edifice. The maritime history of the Old House Woods is particularly rich with supernatural occurrences, most notably the legend of the flying ghost ship. In the 19th century, a fisherman named Ben Farabee, while returning from White's Creek, reported an astonishing encounter. He claimed to have seen a colossal 3-masted ghost galleon on the water, illuminated by spectral lanterns along its deck. Ethereal figures, described as spectral men, stood aboard, gazing into the distance. The ship was heading directly towards him, but his frantic calls went unanswered. At the moment of an anticipated collision, the phantom ship simply floated over his head, continuing its silent ascent towards the beach. As it passed, Farabee distinctively heard the ethereal strains of a harp. To his terror, the ghost ship continued to float upwards, clearing the tree line of the forest, and came to a halt above the pines. He then claimed to witness rope ladders being lowered from the ship's sides, and shadowy figures described as men with tools and other contraptions climbing down and disappearing into the dense woods below. This strange ship is not a singular apparition. Multiple stories exist of similar flying ghost ships haunting the Old House Woods, sometimes seen hovering at least 50 feet over the ocean's waves, often shrouded in a mysterious fog. The allure of buried treasure is another powerful catalyst for the paranormal activity reported in Old House Woods. One legend states that, in the 1600s, a band of pirates concealed their loot somewhere along the banks of White's Creek. Unfortunately for them, a massive storm subsequently flooded the entire creek, washing the pirates out to sea. Local lore suggests that, unwilling to abandon their riches, the ghostly pirates have been seen searching the creek at night ever since, perpetually bound to their lost fortune. Another treasure-related narrative involves a ship belonging to King Charles II of England. In 1651, in the wake of the Battle of Worcester, the king reportedly dispatched a treasure ship from England to America. The purpose was to ensure he had resources to rebuild his life in the colonies should he be forced to flee England. The story recounts that as the ship made its way to Jamestown, a severe storm forced it off course, causing it to run aground in White Creek. There, the vessel was attacked by bandits, who murdered the crew and managed to transport the valuable loot into the forest. Their ultimate fate is debated. Either they were killed for their crimes or their own ship sank at sea. Now, it is believed that the ghosts of the loyal crew members attempt to protect the buried loot, while the spectres of the bandits endlessly try to dig it up. These ghostly figures are said to carry lanterns that glow with an eerie green light at night. A third treasure story centres on British redcoats. Reports claim that a group of spectral British soldiers is seen carrying lanterns and digging in various parts of the forest. This legend suggests that during the Battle of Yorktown in 1781, General Charles Cornwallis ordered soldiers to conceal a significant fortune of gold within this dense patch of woods. These soldiers were subsequently captured and arrested, leaving the gold behind. The ghostly redcoats are believed to be eternally searching for their general's hidden hoard. Beyond specific treasure hunts, numerous broader haunted happenings are reported in Old House Woods. A chilling first-hand account comes from a duck hunter named Henry Forest. While hunting in the woods, Forest saw black shapes on the water of White Creek. As he aimed his gun, believing them to be ducks, the black blobs shifted into the forms of several angry-looking redcoat soldiers. Terrified, he fled through the woods back to his boat, only to find another ghostly redcoat already waiting inside. When he threatened to shoot the spirit, it retorted with, "You shoot and the devil's curse to you and your traitor's breed." He attempted to pull the trigger, but his gun inexplicably refused to fire. After failing another shot, he threw his gun at the ghost and ran away in utter terror. The woods are also haunted by a female apparition, distinct from military or pirate spectres. Known as the Storm Woman, she is described as a female figure in a white gown, glowing with an unearthly green or pale blue light. She's seen rising above the woods at night and emitting an unearthly scream, which local sailors interpret as a portent of a terrible incoming storm, warning them to evacuate the area. Her appearance, while frightening, is paradoxically seen as a benevolent warning. Ghostly animals are also a common feature of the Old House woods. Multiple reports exist of black horses that aggressively attack people in the woods. Ghost crows cackle and screech from the tree canopy, adding to the unsettling atmosphere. 2 black ghost dogs are also said to chase trespassers away, known to pounce at people and even jump into the beds of trucks, leaving deep claw marks before vanishing. The sounds of their howls are reportedly enough to instill fear in even the bravest individuals. If these black phantom dogs prove insufficient to deter intruders, the woods are said to deploy its ultimate deterrent, phantom headless cows. Perhaps the strangest and most perplexing accounts involve lost skeleton nights. In 1926, a local man named Jesse Hudgens reported a terrifying encounter in Old House Woods. A group of strangers carrying lanterns approached him. As they drew closer, Hudgens realized with horror that they were animated skeletons clad in old armor. One of these skeletal figures produced a large ancient sword and waved it menacingly, causing Hudgens to flee for his life. A second, equally bizarre incident occurred on the road leading through the woods. A man whose car had broken down in the middle of the night was attempting to fix it when a figure, described as a skeleton wearing old armor, strode purposefully towards him. The apparition asked, "Is this the King's Highway? I've lost my ship." The man was so terrified that he abandoned his car and ran. This encounter was reported by Jesse Hudgens as early as 1929. The question posed by the skeletal figure, combined with its ancient armor, hints at a deeper, possibly even medieval, historical layer to the woods hauntings, suggesting lost travelers or crusaders. While some long-time residents of the area claim not to have experienced such intense ghostly phenomena, often citing only the nuisance of enormous mosquitoes from the marshes, paranormal investigators have reportedly captured compelling evidence within the woods. Electronic voice phenomena, EVPs, of both animal and human sounds have been recorded, suggesting that the woods are indeed active with unseen entities. The Old House Woods, with its confluence of pirate legends, Civil War and Revolutionary War spectres, unexplained fires, phantom ships and bizarre skeletal encounters, continues to be a chilling enigma, a true intersection of historical events and perceived supernatural occurrences. Kenwood House, Hampstead Heath, England, surrounding woods. The surrounding woods of Kenwood House, located on Hampstead Heath in England, have long been a source of local folklore and personal unsettling experiences, as evidenced by a series of letters exchanged between 2 estranged sisters in autumn a good few years ago. These letters, found among the possessions of an American reader's recently deceased mother, provide a harrowing account of perceived paranormal activity rooted in the Heath's ancient history and a tragic incident. The family had lived by the edge of Hampstead Heath for generations, mainly in the same large house, providing a deep, inherited connection to the locale. The first letter, from the sister in London to her sibling in America, reveals a family dispute over their deceased father's will, particularly his absurd insistence that the family home be sold and never re-entered. The sister, having successfully challenged the will and moved back into the house with her children, expresses a profound connection to the Heath, describing it as a dark, dependable repository of all our family's dreams and long-ago days. This sentiment highlights the ingrained presence of the Heath in their family's consciousness. A key element introduced is her husband Harry, who has become obsessed with researching the local area spending more time in the library than at work, essentially becoming an amateur historian. Harry's research uncovers a crucial historical detail. The old summer house in their garden, located in a dark corner, predates the main house. It is in fact the last remaining structure of a small manor house that once stood further up the hill, predating the current crop of houses. This manor house was part of a grand scheme on the edge of the heath, akin to a mini Kenwood. This revelation immediately links the family's property to a deeper, more ancient and potentially haunted history of the heath. Harry diligently restores the summer house, replacing its windows with correctly cut vintage panes found in antique shops across London, a no small task given the octagonal structure. The sister notes that the summer house had not looked that good since Dad smashed all of the glass out of it in the first place. This offhand remark, seemingly a childhood memory, later takes on a far more sinister implication. Her young son Archie becomes particularly attached to the newly restored summer house, preferring it over his treehouse, and plays there with imaginary friends. This triggers the sister's memory of her own childhood, where she too populated the summer house with imaginary friends after her siblings refused to play there with her. She specifically asks her American sister if she still has drawings of these friends, particularly one where they're all holding hands around the summer house, and there's little you standing in the middle of it, hoping to show Archie that his auntie was the same. The second letter confirms the American sister sent the drawings, which the London sister describes as funny little characters from a little Gothic illustrator. Archie is engrossed by them. However, the American sister's accompanying message for Archie to try to make friends with them strikes the London sister as slightly dotty, indicating an early unease. The coincidences begin to escalate. Before receiving the drawings, the London sister overheard Archie asking his sisters to come and play in the ghost house. Maisie wants to play, referring to the summer house. This name, Maisie, immediately resonates with her as it was the name of one of her American sister's childhood imaginary friends, a detail she'd been reminded by Archie himself. The London sister feels a little shiver, noting Archie sounded just like you used to. She questions if it's normal for children to invent mean imaginary friends, as Archie doesn't seem to like this Maisie much. Crucially, the London sister expresses disbelief that her American sibling does not remember the night their father smashed the summer house windows. She vividly recalls the event, describing their father acting like a madman, wielding that great mallet, smash, 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 every window in turn. Her brother Matthew supposedly said afterwards that it sounded like a scream each time a pane was smashed. This memory, initially dismissed as childhood trauma, foreshadows a darker reality. The third letter reveals the London sister's increasing alarm, stating her American sibling's tone is close to unhinged, and that she is starting to worry me. She acknowledges knowing that her sister used to call it the ghost house, and admits she must have mentioned it to Archie when showing him the drawings. The sister then reveals Harry, the amateur historian, has seemingly gotten to the bottom of the Maisie coincidence. Harry's research uncovered an old local ghost story taught in schools about a little girl that comes in through the windows at night to stab you or something, and the girl in the story is named Maisie. This is presented as a rational explanation for the coincidence, a playground legend that both sisters and now Archie picked up on. To illustrate how coincidences can play tricks on the mind, she recounts a personal, terrifying experience. One moody November evening, she caught Archie trying to stupidly bang his head against one of the windows of the summer house, as if trying to break it. She banned him from it, but later saw him there arguing with some invisible someone or other, leading her to snap, overreacting due to the whole imaginary world thing was getting out of hand. Feeling particularly bad later, Archie became distraught because he had left his favourite teddy in the summer house, and Maisie was angry. He begged her not to go down there, claiming his friends being gone that Maisie was down there. Despite her fractious state, she went to retrieve the teddy to prove there was nothing to fear. In the dim light, she found the teddy and next to it a scrumpled drawing Archie had made. Then, with horror, she saw a child reflected in one of the summer house windows, or perhaps standing beyond it on the lawn. It was a girl in a torn white dress, with long dark hair stuck to a pale face, which was scarred horribly. She didn't just see her, she felt her. The girl was very unhappy, full of anger, standing perfectly still and staring at me with black, hate-filled eyes. She whipped round, but there was nobody in the summer house but me. When she looked back, the reflection was gone. Stepping out, she found one of the children's scooters with some old white towel hanging off it or something, illuminated by the moon, which then went behind a cloud, casting the scooter into shadow. Archie's drawing depicted a girl in a ragged white dress or nightie, with red marks down her face and on her hands, and a piece of tape or bandage drawn over her mouth. The sister concludes that the vision was a product of coincidences, anxieties, and the unsettling drawing, dismissing it as her mind playing tricks on her. The fourth letter reveals the escalating tension. The London sister desperately asks her American sister to stop calling the house and stop phoning, stating Harry has told her she can't speak to you until you stop all this nonsense. She expresses anger mixed with concern, especially after what became of Dad. She reveals Harry reported that the American sister told him she was booking a flight over here and was yelling at him to smash the bloody summer house windows, reminding him he is not our father. The letter ends with the London sister stating she will come to America to help her sibling get help, indicating a belief in her sister's mental instability. The final letter, unexpectedly sent by Harry the brother-in-law to the American sister, is a letter of condolence, implying a tragic event has occurred involving the London sister or one of her children. He thanks her for the drawings sent to Archie, regretting that Archie would have liked to have met you. Harry states that he is not a superstitious man and attributes his son's fate, implied to be death, to a tragic accident. Fueled perhaps by a furtive imagination, but aided certainly by my own decision, with which I will have to live for the rest of my life, to put antique glass into a rusting, rotting structure. This chilling statement strongly implies that Archie's death is connected to the summer house, its windows, and the presence of Maisie. The family intends to leave the summer house windowless and empty, as a monument to our beloved boy. The Law of the Heath pamphlet, discovered in a Highgate second-hand bookshop, provides the crucial missing piece of the puzzle, confirming the ghost story mentioned by Harry. The short-lived manor house, built in the 18th century and demolished by the mid-19th century, had for some years been used as a school for deserted children. The pamphlet recounts the gruesome ghost story of a girl named Maisie, who punishes naughty children with a knife. This legend has its basis in a tragic true story, possibly contributing to the manor house's demise. The story concerns Maisie Beckett, described as a very troubled child, a bully and a tyrant, known for sadistic rituals imposed on other children. One such ritual led to the tragedy. Maisie would make children stand in front of the dormitory's tall windows after dark. When she called a name, that child had to whip your head forward as hard as possible without breaking the glass. One day, the inevitable happened, and a boy was cut. Although not badly hurt, something snapped in the other children. Perhaps the sound of glass shattering, the sight of blood, or their pent-up humiliations led them to turn on Maisie. They reportedly picked up shards of glass and attacked her body and face, slashing at the hands she put up to defend herself. In the frenzy, a cut found her throat. Maisie was buried in a small chapel graveyard within the manor house grounds, its exact location now unknown. This horrifying historical event provides a concrete dark origin for the Maisie legend, suggesting that the spirit haunting the summer house, the entity perceived by Archie and then by his mother, was indeed the vengeful ghost of Maisie Beckett, tragically killed by shards of glass within the very structure or on its site that the family now inhabits, and whose windows their father had inexplicably smashed years before, a chilling premonition of the tragedy to come.